Welcome to Shredder Fanfic. Like, subscribe, and hype video. Join members to gain early access to new videos. The main character after dying wakes up as Battle Beast inside of Marvel. What is Battle Beast going to do inside of Marvel after he faces Thor in a battle at the start?
Marvel, reborn as Battle Beast, fight Thor at the start. Chapter 1, Worthy Opponent. When I opened my eyes, there was dust in my lungs and heat in the air. The sky stretched above me, clear and vast, and the ground beneath me was cracked desert earth. My head turned and I saw him. Tall, broad, hair like pale fire, standing in the open sunlight. Thor. That name came easily. The recognition was immediate. I knew the shape of this world, the air, the sun, the subtle energy that clung to his skin. The Marvel world. The man before me was not a stranger from a dream. He was the god who once ruled thunder. I looked down at my hands. The claws were long and thick, fur white as bone, arms cut with muscle built for war. I could feel the strength coiled inside, waiting. The instincts in me wanted battle. Not chaos, not rage, just a fight. A sound built in my chest, deep roar, meant to shake the ground, and I let it out. A roar, the kind that came from the core. The sound rolled across the empty land like a signal. Thor turned sharply, his face hardening. Before thought could form, I moved. I lunged at him with the force of a storm. My fist met his jaw, and he flew back, dirt spraying from his landing. The impact cracked the ground. He groaned, spat to the side, and pushed himself up. His eyes blazed. "You dare strike me," he shouted. I said nothing. I only watched him, waiting for him to stand straight. He staggered, hand pressed to his face. "When I get my power back," he shouted again, "I, Thor of Asgard, will defeat you." My head tilted. The words rang true. I knew this part. He had been cast out, stripped of Mjolnir and his strength. Odin had broken him down to learn humility. This was that moment. Thor turned away, trying to run. He was moving toward the town and toward his friends. Jane Foster, Eric Selvig, and Darcy Lewis. Humans. I caught up to him in seconds. My hand clamped down on his shoulder, my claws digging just enough to halt him. "Stay," I said. My voice was low, heavy, final. The tone of a predator giving a command. He froze, twisting to look at me. "Unhand me." I didn't. "How will you regain your power?" I asked. "I need a worthy opponent." He blinked, confused, anger still burning behind his eyes. "You attack a man who's lost his strength and call it a fair fight." "I call it the start of one," I said. He studied me, chest heaving. "You seek battle for its own sake." "Yes." He exhaled, shoulders dropping slightly. The fury in him dulled to something else, respect maybe. "Then perhaps there's honor in you after all," he said. "Wait for me to earn my power back. Then we'll see if you can still stand after facing me." I released him. He stepped away, rubbing his shoulder once, but didn't turn his back again. "You remind me of someone," he said, quieter this time. "Someone who only lived to test himself." "I live to fight," I said. "If you are strong, then we will fight." He gave a short nod. "Then you'll have your chance." Jane, Selvig, and Darcy arrived, all staring like they had just walked into a war zone. Jane's voice broke the silence. "Thor, what was that? Are you okay?" Thor straightened, brushing off his clothes. "I'm fine," he said, breathing out a weak laugh. "Our friend here is enthusiastic." Darcy frowned. "He threw you like 50 feet. That's not enthusiastic. That's crazy." Selvig's eyes stayed on me. "What are you?" he asked. I turned my head toward him. "A warrior," I said. "Nothing more." Jane's brow furrowed. "He talks like he's auditioning for a war documentary." Thor's lips twitched like he almost smiled. "He speaks like a soldier. Leave him be." He turned toward the desert. "I need to find my hammer." I knew where he meant. The crater. The site Shield had already locked down. Mjolnir was waiting there, sealed by Odin's judgment. Thor started walking. I followed. Jane and her group hesitated, then went after us. The night wind kicked up sand around our feet. The walk was long and quiet until the lights of the SHILD base came into view, floodlights, fencing, soldiers everywhere. Thor stopped at the edge of the perimeter. "There," he said, "I can feel it." He was staring at Mjolnir. The hammer sat in the middle of the crater, gleaming faintly under the lights. "You will not lift it," I said. He looked at me. "And how would you know that?" "I've seen your fate," I said. "You're not ready." His jaw tightened. "Then let me prove you wrong." He climbed the fence, ignoring the guards shouting. I stayed outside, arms crossed, watching. Jane called after him, but he didn't look back. The agents inside swarmed him, but Thor fought through them. He didn't have his old power, but he fought with heart, pushing forward with every ounce of mortal strength he had left. When he reached the hammer, he knelt and wrapped his hand around the handle. He pulled. Nothing happened. He tried again, pulling harder. The hammer didn't move. His breath shook. His arm trembled. Then his head dropped and he stayed there, silent. Jane gasped softly. Darcy went quiet. Selvig muttered something under his breath. Thor lifted his head, eyes red. He looked broken, not from pain, but from realization. "This was mine," he said, voice rough, "and now it's gone." I walked closer, stopping just outside the crater. "You're not unworthy," I said. "You're unfinished." He looked up at me, confused. "When your strength returns," I said, "you'll face me again. That is all I want." Thor stared for a long moment, then gave a slow nod. "Then we'll fight," he said, "when I am Thor again." The agents moved in, guns raised. One of them spoke into a radio. "We've got him." Thor didn't resist. He just let them take him, his eyes still locked on the hammer. I stepped back. They surrounded him, leading him away. Coulson appeared from the edge of the lights, calm and composed. "You want to tell me who you are?" he asked me. I looked at him. "No." "Strong, silent type," he said, trying to sound relaxed. "You hit one of our detainees. That's a problem." "I don't care." He studied me, noting the claws, the armor, the size. "You're not from around here, are you?" "No." He nodded slowly. "You're lucky he's still breathing. Normally, I'd have a dozen guns on you." "You'd need more," I said. Coulson stared at me for a moment, then sighed. "Right, we'll pretend this didn't happen. For now," he motioned to one of his agents. "Let him go, but keep an eye on him." They backed off. I turned and walked away. Behind me, I could hear Thor being taken into the trucks. Jane was arguing with Coulson. Darcy was recording something on her phone. Selvig just shook his head. The desert stretched out ahead, endless and quiet. My claws dug into the sand as I walked. The fight had been nothing, a test, but the spark had been there, the promise of a challenge that might one day be worthy. Soon, Chapter 2, No Honor in Weak Prey. The desert night was heavy with heat and silence. The SHILD trucks cut across the sand ahead of me, lights blazing, engines grumbling low. I followed on foot. Each stride dug deep, claws scraping the packed ground. My hearing tracked every sound from their conv, the rattle of gear, the human chatter, the whine of tires. They were moving fast toward the base. Thor was inside the middle truck, bound but not broken. I could hear him shouting at the guards. The air stank of oil and metal. I walked until the conv reached a perimeter of tall fencing and blinding lights. The base was wide, ringed with guards. Floodlights turned night into grey daylight. I stood outside their boundary and watched. The smell of gun oil and sweat rolled toward me. My pulse slowed. I was not impatient, but the need for a challenge was sharp in my chest. I wanted Thor released. He would earn his power soon. I needed him alive to do it. A light swept across me from the watchtower. The alarm followed. "Target sighted," a man shouted. I heard the sharp click of a bowstring. The sound was familiar, fast, clean, trained. I turned my head and saw him standing on the scaffold. Clint Barton, the archer. His stance was steady, left hand drawn, right hand locked on me. "Don't move," he yelled. "Identify yourself." I didn't move. My eyes stayed on him. He narrowed his gaze. "Fine," he said. "Have it your way." The arrow flew. It burned through the air straight for my chest. I caught it. The shaft splintered in my hand. I growled low, "You dare." Barton froze for a heartbeat. Then I roared. The sound tore through the camp, deep enough to rattle metal. Barton's eyes widened. He dropped from the platform and ran the other way. I charged. The ground cracked beneath me. Men shouted, scrambling for weapons. Spotlights followed as I broke through the outer fence and landed in the open. Gunfire started. The first bullets hit my shoulder and chest. They didn't stop me. I moved straight through the line of men, hitting the first one with the back of my arm. He flew 10 feet before hitting the sand. The next two tried to flank me. I knocked one into the fence and the other into a stack of crates. Another arrow came from above. I heard it, turned, and caught it out of the air. Barton was retreating again, reloading fast. A soldier ran in close, shouting orders. I grabbed him by the vest and tossed him aside. The group tried to swarm, rifles raised. Their weapons cracked, but I ignored the impact. I reached them and swung. The force sent them scattering across the dirt. One hit a vehicle door hard enough to dent it. Another dropped his gun and crawled away. The rest backed off, shouting for orders. My breathing was steady. My claws were slick with dust. "Enough," a voice called out. Agent Coulson stepped into view, calm but tense. Barton appeared beside him, bow drawn but not raised. The others aimed their rifles but didn't fire. Coulson's eyes moved over the bodies on the ground, then to me. "We don't need to make this worse," he said, voice low and even. "You've already made your point." I turned to face him fully. My body towered over them. My voice came out hard. "Let Thor go." Coulson's jaw tightened. "He's being questioned," he said. "No one's harming him." I stepped closer. "You keep him locked. That is not honor." Coulson held his ground. "We're just trying to understand what's happening here. He came from nowhere, so did you." Barton shifted, still tense. "What are you?" he asked. I looked straight at him. "A warrior." "Yeah," Barton said quietly. "I got that part." My eyes shifted back to Coulson. "You protect him because you fear what you do not understand. Release him." Coulson kept his voice even. "You think I'm just going to open the door because you asked?" I stepped forward again, slow and deliberate. The ground shook lightly beneath my steps. "Do it," I said, "and I will spare your men. There is no honor in killing insects." The soldiers flinched. Barton's bow tensed again, but he didn't fire. Coulson took a careful breath. "If you're here for him, you can't get what you want by force. That's not how we work." "I do not care how you work," I said. "You keep him here, and you keep yourself from what will come. Thor will earn his power back. You will not stop it." Coulson frowned. "You seem pretty sure about that." "I know it," I said. He studied me, his expression calm but uncertain. "You're not human, are you?" "No." Barton's voice cut in. "Then what are you doing here?" "I wait for my fight," I said simply. "He will be my test." Coulson folded his arms. "You're serious?" "Yes." The soldiers around him exchanged glances. No one moved. The air felt heavy with tension. I crouched slightly, lowering my center of gravity, keeping my eyes locked on the two of them. The smell of fear was strong. Barton's arrow remained pointed at me. "Stand down," Coulson said quietly to the others. "No one fires unless I say so." He looked back at me. "You've proven you're strong. No one here doubts it, but you're not helping him by attacking us." "He is a warrior stripped of his weapon," I said. "He must earn it back. If he dies in your cage, he earns nothing." Coulson hesitated. "He's not in a cage." "He is," I said, voice rumbling. "He cannot move. He cannot fight. That is a cage." Coulson's voice stayed calm. "If I let him out now, you're going to follow him, right? You'll keep fighting him." "Yes." "That's exactly why I can't do that." "Then your men will die." The words hung in the air. Barton's bowstring creaked. Several soldiers tensed, fingers twitching near triggers. Calson raised his hand slightly, stopping them. "No one's dying tonight," he said. "You are weak," I said. "You command insects and hide behind your words." He sighed softly. "You can believe that if it helps you sleep." Barton smirked faintly, but didn't lower his bow. "You've got a funny way of making friends." I took one step closer. "You think this is a threat," I said. "It is a promise. Thor must fight. If you stop him, I will find you again." Coulson stayed still. "If you want him released, you wait. He'll come out when he's done. No one's hurting him." "I will wait," I said finally. Coulson exhaled in relief. "Good." I looked down at the soldiers lying on the ground, groaning, clutching their ribs and arms. None were dead. I could have ended them, but there was no honor in that. They were not warriors. They were guards doing what they were told. I turned away. "You live because you are not my enemy," I said. Coulson watched as I walked past the wrecked fence and back into the desert. Barton kept his bow trained until I was almost gone. When I reached the dunes, I stopped and looked back once. They were still watching. I could hear Coulson talking quietly into his earpiece. "Yeah," he said. "He's walking away. Tell the medics to move in. No one's dead, just bruised." Barton muttered, "That thing wasn't even trying." Coulson answered, "Let's hope it never does." The wind picked up again. I turned and kept walking, following the tracks of the convoy's tires as they stretched toward the horizon. The fight was over, but my purpose hadn't changed. Thor would regain his strength. I would wait for that moment. Chapter 3. The Weight of Waiting. I stayed near the base. The air was dry, the sand still warm from the day. The humans called this place New Mexico. It was quiet, except for the faint hum of electricity from the fences and the soft crunch of the guards' boots as they walked their rounds. The light from their towers flickered over the desert floor, drawing thin lines of shadow across the ground. I crouched in the dunes, watching. The humans did not know how to look into darkness. Their eyes were weak. Their weapons did not concern me. My eyes followed the movement of every patrol, every guard rotation. I could have walked through them at any time, but I stayed. Thor was inside the base, held by men who didn't understand what they contained. I could hear his voice sometimes, faint through the metal walls. It carried strength even now. He shouted about honor, about his hammer. I could tell the men around him didn't understand him. They never would. When the trucks came and went, I stayed still. When the helicopters passed overhead, I did not move. The desert wind covered my scent. The smell of oil and sand mixed with my own. Hours passed. I did not need to rest. I simply waited. As night deepened, I saw a change. The guards at the inner section of the base stood back. The lights inside one of the buildings flickered with strange energy. I moved closer, staying low, claws sinking into the sand to muffle my weight. Through a window, I saw Thor. He was sitting on a steel bench, still in his human form. His head was bowed. He looked smaller than he should. He was not weak, but the pride had drained out of him. His spirit was quiet, but not gone. Two agents stood at the door, rifles slung across their chests. They spoke in low voices. One said, "He's calmer now." The other nodded. "Coulson says he's just a guy who lost everything. Let him rest." They left. I waited until the hallway lights dimmed again. Then I saw it. The air near Thor shimmered faintly. I recognized that energy before it even took shape. The magic was cold and clean, like glass breaking without sound. Loki. The illusion formed in front of Thor, faint blue at first, then clear. Loki's voice was calm, his tone smooth. "Brother," Loki said, "can you hear me?" Thor's head lifted slowly. His expression changed the instant he recognized the voice. "Loki," he said. Loki smiled gently. "Father is dead." Thor froze. "What?" Loki lowered his eyes. "Odin has fallen into the eternal sleep. Mother mourns. Asgard needs its king. She has chosen me." I stayed where I was, silent, unmoving. I already knew this scene. I knew every word, but seeing it again carried weight. The pain in Thor's voice was real, not part of any act. "Tell me, brother," Thor said, his voice shaking. "What of the hammer? Did it return to Asgard?" Loki shook his head. "It remains here, sealed by Father's enchantment. He left no path for you to return." Thor looked away, hands gripping his knees. "So this is my punishment." Loki's tone softened. "I am sorry. I begged Father to show mercy, but now that he is gone, I will do what I can to keep you safe." Thor stared at him. "Safe?" "Yes," Loki said. "Stay here among the mortals. Accept your exile. Asgard will continue. I will rule with wisdom as you would have wanted." Thor stood up slowly. "You lie," he said. Loki's smile didn't fade. "I do not." "You do," Thor said firmly. "You twist the truth even when you think you speak kindly. I can feel it." Loki's illusion flickered slightly. "You always were too proud to see reason." Thor stepped closer. "If what you say is true, then farewell, brother. You have what you wanted." Loki looked at him one last time, then vanished. The room went quiet again. Thor sat back down, head lowered. I watched through the window, unmoving. His grief was heavy, but it was also part of his path. He needed to lose everything to understand what strength was. Odin knew that. So did I. A soft wind moved over the sand behind me. I turned my head slightly. A patrol was coming closer, 3 men. They had flashlights and rifles. "Hey," one said, "you see that? Movement near the fence." "Probably a coyote," the second replied. The first one stopped. "That's a big coyote." I stayed still. They stepped closer. The beam of light swept across my arm for half a second. "Jesus," one of them said, "that's not an animal." I rose to my full height. The sound of my armor shifting was enough. The first man shouted, "Contact." I moved before they raised their guns. The first fell under my palm, pushed into the sand but not crushed. I turned and pushed the second aside with my arm. His weapon flew into the air. The third dropped his gun and ran. I caught the weapon Medea and bent the barrel. "Do not," I said. "Aim at me again." The one on the ground looked up, shaking. What are you?" "I am Battle Beast," I said. "You will not stand in my way." He nodded fast. I won't." I stepped over him and moved closer to the building again. The noise had not reached the rest of the base yet. The guards at the far end hadn't noticed. Inside, Thor was still sitting, staring at his hands. He spoke softly to himself. "I am not worthy." His words were quiet, but firm, like a truth he hated admitting. I watched him for a long time. He did not see me. I could have broken the wall and walked in. I could have freed him myself. But that was not my place. His trial was his own. The guards returned a few minutes later, checking the hallway. I backed away into the shadows. As I moved, I saw Barton again on a raised platform, scanning the perimeter with binoculars. His jaw tightened when his eyes caught movement in the dunes. He recognized me. He lowered the binoculars and reached for his bow. I stopped moving. He held the bow ready but didn't draw. He was learning. We stared at each other for a long moment. Then I turned and walked away. The base lights faded behind me until they were just dots in the distance. The desert swallowed every sound. The stars were bright above, clear and sharp. I walked until I reached a rise overlooking the base. From there, I could see the entire compound spread out below, small and fragile. I sat on the rock and stayed still. My claws dug into the stone out of habit. The desert wind blew across my fur. I closed my eyes briefly, feeling the stillness. Thor's voice still echoed in my ears. "I am not worthy." That was what Odin wanted him to say. That was how the hammer would call him again. I stayed through the night, watching the lights move and fade as dawn approached. When the sun began to rise, I stood and stretched my arms. The muscles in my shoulders tightened and relaxed. The scent of morning filled the air. The base began to stir again. More guards, more trucks. The humans were busy. Thor was alive. That was enough. I turned and walked away from the ridge. I would wait until the hammer called him again. Chapter 4. The Machine from Asgard. The sun was gone when I heard the first explosion. The ground trembled under me. The smell of smoke and burning metal spread fast across the desert. I stood and turned toward the town. It was far from the SHIELD base, but even from here I could see a faint orange glow rising against the dark. The destroyer had arrived. The sound of its steps was heavy, steady, like thunder rolling under the ground. Every strike was the same, precise, without hesitation. A true weapon. I watched the light of its energy beam cut through the horizon, flattening everything in its path. This was what I had been waiting for. Not Thor, not his hammer. This. I started walking, then running. The sand broke beneath my feet as I built speed. Wind tore past me. My heartbeat quickened. There was no anger in it, only readiness. The promise of combat made every step lighter. When I reached the road leading into town, I saw people fleeing in cars, screaming, their lights cutting across the dust. The road was littered with debris, broken signs, glass, half-melted asphalt. A police car lay overturned. I moved past them all. The humans shouted for me to stop, but I ignored them. Their voices meant nothing. I could see the destroyer now. Its armor reflected the fire it had caused. It stood in the center of the street, tall and solid, its faceplate glowing bright. SHIELD agents fired from cover, their bullets bouncing off its armor. It didn't even react. It lifted its head and sent out a blast of energy. The beam cut through two vehicles in one shot. Agent Carlson shouted orders near the back. Fall back. Everyone get behind cover. The destroyer turned its head toward the sound and began walking again. I walked straight toward it. Carlson saw me, his eyes wide. Not you again, he said under his breath. Then louder, don't go near it. I didn't respond. The destroyer's head turned toward me now. The orange glow in its chest pulsed. The next blast was aimed directly at me. I braced. The beam hit me square in the chest, lifting me off my feet and throwing me back through a truck. Metal folded around me, sparks flying. When the fire cleared, I stepped out. The armor on my shoulder was glowing hot, but my skin was unbroken. I looked at the mark where the beam had hit and growled softly. Good. Carlson watched in disbelief. That thing just, he's still standing. I charged. The ground cracked under my weight. The destroyer adjusted, raising its arm to strike. The second blast missed. I closed the distance and slammed my fist into its chest. The impact sent it back several meters, metal groaning as it skidded through the dirt. I followed. The next hit came faster, my claws cutting through the outer plates. I could feel the dense weight of the thing, the energy vibrating through its armor. It swung its arm and struck me across the head. The blow staggered me but didn't drop me. I grinned. You are strong, I said. The destroyer answered with another beam, this one point blank. It hit my side, pushing me into a wall. The heat burned, but my body healed as the armor cooled. I pushed away from the wall and swung both arms into its shoulders. The hit dented the metal deep enough to make the machine stumble. Sparks flew from the joints. It countered, grabbing me by the torso and throwing me across the street. I landed hard, cracking the pavement, then rolled and rose again. Carlson's voice echoed faintly from somewhere behind me. Keep clear, don't engage, let them fight. I ignored him. The destroyer straightened its back and opened its chest fully. The light there grew blinding. I ran forward as it fired. The beam caught me halfway. The heat tore across my armor, the pressure pushing me back. I roared and pushed through it, step by step, until I was within striking distance. I slammed both fists into its chest. The blast cut off. The metal folded inward from the impact. The shockwave cracked nearby windows. The destroyer stumbled, dropping to one knee. Its head turned slowly to track me, movements jerky now. I felt my heart hammering with satisfaction. My fists were bloodied, my muscles tense, but I could still fight for days. This was what I wanted. The machine raised its hand again. Another beam came, smaller, unfocused. I caught its arm and twisted. Metal screeched as I tore it from the socket. The limb fell to the ground, still glowing. I grabbed its chest and dragged it backward across the street, away from the humans. Its remaining hand struck my side, denting the armor but not stopping me. I lifted it off the ground and threw it into the nearest building. The structure crumbled around it in a cloud of dust. I walked through the smoke toward the wreckage. The destroyer began to stand again, slower now. "You are built for war," I said. "Good." It raised its head, chest flickering. I struck again, a clean blow to the center of its body. The armor cracked under the hit. The light inside pulsed once more, weaker this time. From the corner of my eye, I saw movement. Jane Foster, Darcy, Eric Selvig, and Thor. They had arrived. Thor ran forward, shouting, "No." I stopped and turned my head toward him. He was still mortal, his clothes torn, eyes wide. "You can't fight it," he yelled. "You'll die." I ignored him and turned back to the destroyer. "It is strong enough to fight me," I said. Thor ran closer. "Stop, it's not yours to fight." "It stands before me," I said. "That is enough." The destroyer's head twisted toward Thor now, sensing him. Its chest began to glow again. Thor froze. I moved in front of him. The beam hit me in the chest and pushed both of us back. I caught Thor by the arm and threw him aside before charging again. The machine kept firing, the light continuous. I broke through it and tackled it into the street. We rolled, each strike echoing through the air like thunder. It grabbed my throat and pushed me back. The heat from its body was searing. I drove my claws into its side and tore through the plating. A burst of light shot from the wound. The machine convulsed once, then struck again, hitting me in the jaw hard enough to snap my head to the side. I responded with a knee to its chest, then ripped away another plate. I could see the core now, a bright, spinning mass of Asgardian energy. I hit it again. The destroyer's movements faltered. The light inside flickered unevenly. Behind me, Thor was shouting again. "Stop, please, you don't understand." I looked back at him once. "It is finished," I said. The destroyer staggered forward. Its chest opened fully. I stepped closer and struck the core with both fists. The light exploded outward, knocking me back into the street. I landed hard, dust covering my armor. When the light cleared, the destroyer was motionless. Its chest was dark, smoke rising from the broken plates. I stood rolling my shoulders. My arms ached. I felt alive. Thor approached, breathing hard. "You stopped it." I looked down at him. "It stopped itself," I said. "It could not withstand the fight." Jane ran up beside Thor, eyes wide. "What are you?" Thor turned to her. "He's a warrior." Darcy muttered, "Yeah, no kidding." I looked at Thor. "You should stand now," I said. "You are no use on your knees." Thor frowned. "You don't understand. This was not your fight." "All fights are mine," I said. Thor stared at me for a moment, then nodded slowly. "You have my respect," he said. I turned away from him. "Keep it," I said. "Respect does not make you stronger." The wind shifted, carrying the smell of burning metal. The humans around us began to move again, checking the wreckage. Carlson's voice called from a distance, giving orders. I stepped over the remains of the destroyer and looked down at its broken frame. The metal was cooling fast. I could hear the faint hum of power still trapped inside. It had been a good fight, not perfect, but good. I started walking back into the desert, leaving the humans and their confusion behind. Chapter 5. The Storm Returns. The air shifted before the lightning struck. Clouds gathered above the desert in thick layers, rolling inward as if pulled by unseen hands. The wind rose and circled the ruins of the small town. I stood where the destroyer had fallen. The heat from its broken armor still radiated faintly beneath my feet. Then it came, the streak of light cutting through the storm. It fell fast, trailing sparks that burned the sky open for a breath. Mjolnir hit the ground with the force of thunder, kicking dust and debris into the air. The sound echoed through the valley. Thor walked toward it, head bowed, hair soaked with rain that had just begun to fall. The people around him, Jane, Selvig, Darcy, the agents, all watched in silence. His steps were slow but steady. I watched too, my body still, claws curled slightly at my sides. This was his moment. He reached down and closed his hand around the handle. The hammer lifted, as if it had been waiting for him. The wind roared harder. The lightning flared bright, cutting through the sky and striking him directly. The force pushed everyone back a step, but I stood firm. When the light faded, the man was gone. In his place stood the god. Armor covered him now, silver and blue gleaming under the stormlight. The cape tore in the wind, and Mjolnir hummed faintly with energy. Thor exhaled once and lifted his head. His eyes glowed with power. Jane took a step forward, whispering, "He's back." I felt a small pull in my chest, not emotion, just readiness. The warrior was here now. The waiting was over. Thor looked around, his gaze settling on me. His expression shifted from relief to recognition. He walked closer, stopping a few feet away. The hammer rested easily in his hand. "You waited," he said. "Yes," I answered. My voice came deep and even. "You have your power." He studied me, rain sliding down his face. "You want your fight now, don't you?" I smiled, the sharp teeth showed. "Yes." He nodded slowly. "Then you shall have it." He turned to the others. "Get to safety," he told them. Jane started to protest, but he raised a hand. "Go." She looked at me, then back at him, uncertain. Selvig grabbed her arm and pulled her back. "Come on," he said. "Just give them space." They ran toward what was left of the cars. Coulson and his agents backed away as well, weapons lowered, but eyes alert. Thor spun the hammer once in his grip. The air cracked with thunder again. I stepped forward, rolling my shoulders. "I will not hold back," I said. "Neither will I," he said. We moved at the same time. He launched first, swinging Mjolnir wide. The hammer cut through the air with the speed of a bullet. I blocked with my forearm. The impact threw sparks and pushed me back a few steps. The ground tore beneath my feet. I countered with a right hook. He ducked under it and swung upward, the hammer catching my ribs. The hit knocked me back, but I didn't fall. The pain was sharp, clean. It felt right. I lunged again. My claws raked across his armor, tearing one of the plates loose. He grabbed my wrist, twisted, and threw me. I hit the ground hard, rolled, and stood back up, the sand shaking loose from my fur. "Good," I said, smiling again. Thor smirked. "You speak like one who enjoys pain." "I enjoy strength," I said. He flew toward me again, hammer leading. I met him midair, both of us colliding with enough force to send a shockwave through the street. Windows shattered. The humans ducked behind vehicles. We landed apart, both sliding back. He spun the hammer once, holding it ready. I crouched low, my claws digging into the ground. "Come then," he shouted. I roared and charged. The sound tore through the storm. We met again, fists and hammer clashing, every strike loud enough to rattle the earth. His blows were fast, heavy, carrying thunder in each swing. Mine were raw and direct, breaking through blocks and forcing him to shift his footing. He swung low. I jumped over it, landing behind him. I grabbed him by the shoulder and threw him through a half-destroyed wall. The stone cracked around him. Thor stood immediately, brushing dust off his armor. He grinned slightly. "You fight well." "I fight always," I said. He flew at me again, faster this time. His fist caught my jaw. I stumbled back, felt the blood in my mouth, then struck him in return, my punch connecting with his chest plate. The armor dented. He didn't stop. He hit me again, and I hit him back. Each blow louder than the last. The rain grew heavier, soaking the ground beneath us. Coulson's voice echoed faintly from the distance. "Pull everyone back. That's not something we can stop." Lightning flashed again. Thor lifted the hammer high, calling the storm down. The sky answered. Bolts fell all around us. The light struck me full in the chest. The force sent me back several meters. My armor steamed, the ground smoking where I landed. I stood, my chest still glowed faintly where the lightning had hit. Better, I said. Thor tilted his head, half smiling. You take hits that would kill gods. I am no god, I said. I am a warrior. He tightened his grip on Mjolnir. Then let's finish it. He came again. The hammer swung low, then high, forcing me to guard both sides. I caught his arm once and twisted, sending him spinning. He landed and threw the hammer. It hit my shoulder, the impact deep and brutal, then flew back to his hand. The blow left a dent, but I ignored it. I closed the distance and hit him in the face with my elbow. The sound of it cracked like thunder. He stumbled, then struck me in the side with Mjolnir again. We traded blows until the air between us felt alive with pressure. Each breath came sharp and heavy. He took a step back, panting slightly. You fight without hesitation. There is no reason to hesitate, I said. You are strong enough to face me. That is all that matters. Thor nodded, lifting the hammer again. Then I'll give you everything I have. He spun it faster, the air bending around him. Lightning wrapped around his body. The glow spread across the street. I crouched low again, claws digging into the earth. My muscles coiled tight. He flew forward, and I met him head-on. The collision sent a burst of energy outward. The force knocked over the nearby cars and threw dirt and rock into the air. We rolled across the ground, each blow breaking more of the street beneath us. He caught my arm and tried to twist it. I slammed my head into his chest, breaking his hold. He hit me in the side of the face with Mjolnir. I swung back with both fists, catching him across the jaw. He grunted, staggered, and recovered instantly. You won't fall easily, he said. No, I said, breathing steady. Neither will you. He smiled faintly. Good. We charged again. The fight dragged on, neither of us slowing. The storm above grew darker, lightning flashing faster. Each time he struck, I counted. Each time I hit him, he returned the same. The humans had long retreated to the edges of town. Their voices were distant now. I moved faster, claws flashing. He blocked with the hammer, sparks flying. He swung upward. I caught his wrist and kneed him in the stomach, then brought both fists down across his back. He fell to one knee, grunting. I stepped back to give him room to rise. Get up, I said. He pushed himself to his feet, breathing hard. His armor was cracked. Blood ran from his lip. He raised Mjolnir again, smiling. You're relentless. You still stand, I said. That means the fight is not done. He nodded. Then we keep going. He flew at me again. The impact of our next collision was louder than thunder. Dust and rain mixed in the air. Lightning burned the edges of our silhouettes as we struck again and again. Neither of us fell. The ground broke beneath us. The desert itself seemed to shudder. I hit him once across the chest, sending him sliding back several meters. He stopped, wiping blood from his mouth. Thor's voice was low but clear. You are unlike any I've faced. You will face me until one of us falls, I said. He gripped Mjolnir tighter, nodding once. Then let's make it worthy. He leapt forward again. We met once more, the sound of the impact drowning out the storm above. Chapter 6. Clash in the open sand. Our last collision left the street broken and smoking. Dust and rain mixed into thick mud beneath our feet. Thor and I stood facing each other in the ruins of the town, both breathing hard, both still very much standing. Lightning flashed above us again. The storm followed him now, called by his hammer, answering his will. It made no difference to me. He shifted his grip on Mjolnir, testing his shoulder with a small roll. I watched the motion, noting the slight stiffness there. He was tired, but not close to finished. Still want this? Thor asked, voice rough but steady. Yes, I said. You have not fallen yet. A short breath of laughter left him. Good, he said, his eyes sharpened. Then come on. He moved first. Thor flew low across the broken pavement. Hammer pulled back for a heavy swing. I stepped forward to meet him. His strike came at my shoulder. I raised my forearm and blocked. The impact cracked the air and pushed me half a step sideways. My muscles tensed, accepting the force, then pushed back. I hit him with my free hand, a quick straight punch to his ribs. The sound of armor denting under the blow was sharp and clean. Thor grunted but did not flinch away. He slammed his forehead into mine. My head snapped back. The taste of blood hit my tongue. I felt the skin split and then pull itself back together as my body healed. I smiled. He spun the hammer and struck me across the chest. The hit threw me into a wrecked car, crushing its roof under my weight. Metal folded easily. I pushed myself off the twisted frame and jumped forward again without pause. The town could not hold this fight much longer. Buildings leaned, windows were broken, cars burned. Human voices had moved far back. They were keeping their distance now. Good. I stepped in and forced Thor backward with a series of heavy blows. He blocked the first with his forearm, the second with the hammer. The third clipped his jaw and made his head jerk to the side. He slid back across the wet ground, boots skidding. He looked past me for a moment toward the open desert outside town. His expression tightened with focus. He lifted the hammer and launched himself straight up, then forward, flying over my head toward the dunes. He wanted space, a wider field. I bent my knees and leapt after him. The ground behind me cracked under the force of my jump. I landed on the edge of town as he touched down further out, dust spraying under his boots. He turned to face me again, now with nothing between us but open sand and low rock. The storm hovered above, trailing behind him. The town sat behind us, a broken cluster of lights and smoke. No more buildings, Thor called out. No more people. I walked toward him unhurried. You think I care about that? I said. I do not. Yeah, he replied, a faint huff in his voice. I figured. I stopped a few strides away. The ground here was solid enough, a mix of hard-packed earth and sand. Good footing for both of us. I raised my fists. Continue. He nodded and came at me. This charge had more speed in it. Mjolnir hummed through the air as he swung. I sidestepped the first hit and brought my elbow down on his back as he passed. He stumbled, rolled, and came up on one knee, hammer planted in the ground to brace himself. His cape dragged through the mud. His breathing was fast but controlled. He smiled. You hit harder than you look. You are slower than you look, I answered. He chuckled once under his breath, and then launched again. I met him head-on. We clashed in the open sand, fists and hammer colliding hard enough to send thin storms of dust outward with every hit. He drove his right shoulder into me, trying to push me off balance. I dug my claws into the ground and held firm, then answered with a heavy uppercut that lifted him briefly before he forced himself back down. He turned his back half a step, spun, and brought the hammer around in a tight arc. It struck my ribs, compressing armor and bone. The pain was sharp. I let it move me, taking the force and rolling with it, then braced and came back with a straight punch that crashed into his chest. He staggered, skidding across the sand. This time he did fall to one knee. I took one step toward him. Stand, I said. Thor pushed himself back up, breathing hard, shoulders rising and falling. You really don't know how to quit, do you? There is no reason to stop, I said. You are still breathing. He swallowed once, then nodded. Then we keep going. He raised Mjolnir toward the sky. Lightning lanced down to meet it. The energy ran over his armor, lighting the edges of the plates, sparking over his arms. The sound pressed against my ears. He pointed the hammer at me. The bolt came fast. It hit me dead center in the chest, knocking me back several meters. My feet slid trenches through the wet sand. My armor glowed orange from the heat before cooling again, my body knitting back under it. I rolled my shoulders once. Good, I said. Thor's eyes narrowed. You walk through that. I stand, I replied. You know this already. His jaw clenched. He flew at me again, this time trailing lightning in his wake. The hammer came from above. I raised both arms and caught it between my palms. The force drove my feet into the earth up to my ankles. My muscles strained. The sound of the collision carried across the open desert. For a brief moment we were locked there. His arms tensed as he pressed down. I pressed up. The hammer thrummed between us, lightning snapping along its edges. He let out a breath between his teeth. You're stubborn. You are strong, I said. That is all that matters. I twisted suddenly, pulling the hammer offline and dragging him sideways with it. He stumbled forward. I drove my knee into his stomach, then slammed my elbow into his back. He hit the ground, rolled, and flung the hammer out in a wide throw. It caught me in the side of the head, snapping it sideways. My vision flashed white for a brief instant. I dug my claws into the ground and held myself upright. The hammer curved in the air and flew back to his hand as he stood again. We faced each other across a dozen meters now. Rain mixed with dust around us, making the air thick to breathe for a human. For me, it felt clean enough. I flexed my fingers. My knuckles ached pleasantly from every impact. My chest rose and fell faster now, but I still felt far from finished. I called out to him, voice steady. Thor. He lifted his chin. What? You are worthy of your hammer, I said. You are worthy of this fight. His expression softened for half a heartbeat, something like respect in his eyes, then hardened again. Then stopped talking and hit me. I did. I rushed him, closing the distance in 3 steps. I swung hard. He blocked with the hammer. The blow still pushed him back. He countered with a hook from his free hand that caught my jaw. My head snapped aside. I answered with a right cross that caught him in the cheek and sent him spinning. He came out of the turn with another hammer strike, this one smashing into my shoulder. I heard the armor bend and something inside crack, then knit itself back together while the arm still moved. I grabbed his wrist with my other hand and pulled him in, slamming my forehead into his. He staggered and dropped to one knee again, palm in the dirt. He spit blood into the sand, then smiled slightly as he looked up. You really enjoy this, don't you? Yes, I said. This is what I live for. He pushed himself up again, shoulders tense, chest heaving. Yeah, he said quietly, I can tell. He flew back to gain distance, landing further out in the desert. I followed more slowly, giving him a moment to reset his stance. There was no point in striking a distracted opponent. The fight had to be clean. The lights of the town were distant now. SHILD's vehicles formed a dim line at the edge of the ruins, their headlights turned away from us. I could see small figures moving and stopping, watching. They stayed out of range. Thor lifted Mjolnir and spun it at his side. The sound of the spinning head was steady and loud. His shoulders squared. I dropped my center of gravity, hands up, claws half curled. He flew straight at me, this time with more speed than before. I moved to dodge, but he adjusted mid-flight, crashing into me with his shoulder. The impact knocked me back several meters. He stayed on me, swinging the hammer down. It hit my ribs, then my back, then my shoulder. Each blow corrupted the ground beneath me, leaving small craters. I let him press the attack for a few seconds, taking the hits and measuring their force. Then I twisted under one swing, grabbed his wrist, and yanked him down into a left hook. My fist crashed into his face. His head turned sharply. He went down to one knee again, one hand catching himself on the ground. I did not follow up with a second hit. I stepped back half a pace, giving him space to rise. He laughed once under his breath, short and strained. You're giving me room. You are still my opponent, I said. You have earned that much. He nodded once, a hint of gratitude flashing over his face, then vanished under the next wave of effort. We went at each other again. The fight moved out over the open sand. The ground gave slightly under every step, throwing up clumps with each pivot and lunge. We struck, blocked, and countered in a steady rhythm. He used the hammer more now, mixing its reach and weight with his fists. I answered with my claws and raw strength. Several times he knocked me off my feet. Each time I rose immediately. Several times I sent him crashing into the ground. Each time he rolled and stood again, shaking off the impact. At one point, he flew high and came down with the hammer in both hands, aiming for my head. I raised my arms and caught the strike again, but this time I pivoted and pulled, using his own momentum to throw him over my shoulder. He hit the ground hard and slid through the mud, leaving a track. He lay there for only a heartbeat, chest heaving, then rolled and stood again, wiping wet hair from his face. His nose was bleeding freely now. His right eye was bruising at the edge. He raised Mjolnir once more. "You're making me work for this." "You wanted a fight," I said. "You have one." He smirked. "That I do." He flew in again. I met him with a roar, stepping into his path. This collision was the hardest yet. The force of it broke the ground under us in a shallow depression. My arms locked with his as he tried to drive the hammer into my head. I shifted, grabbing his forearm with one hand and his shoulder with the other, and slammed him down into the dirt. He hit, rolled, and kicked at my knee. My leg buckled for a moment, then recovered. I came down with both fists where he had been. He spun away, rolled to his feet, and flung the hammer into the side of my head once more. My vision dimmed for half a second. I shook it off, straightened, and grinned. "You are improving," I said. Thor breathed hard, sweat and rain running down his face. "You're welcome," he replied, voice rough. We stood there, both of us marked by the fight. Armor cracked, blood on fur, blood on metal. The storm still boiled overhead. Lightning flashed every few seconds, turning the desert bright and then dark again. I felt my chest pulling with each breath now. This pleased me. It meant effort. It meant this battle was worthy. "Again," I said. He nodded. "Again." We moved. We closed the distance and began another round of exchange. Fist, hammer, claw, shoulder, knee, every part of our bodies was used now. His style remained controlled and powerful. Mine remained direct and overwhelming. At one point, he caught me under the chin with the hammer and sent me flying onto my back. I hit the ground hard enough to bounce once. Before he could follow up, I rolled and kicked his legs out from under him. He fell, but threw Mjolnir even as he went down, clipping my arm and spinning it sideways. We both rose again. There was no hesitation in either of us now. No words for a stretch of time. Only breathing, movement, and impact. He got inside my guard with a rush and planted his fist 3 times in my stomach, then hit my jaw again. I staggered back 2 steps. I drove a straight punch into his chest, then a hook into his side, feeling ribs move under the blow. He bent slightly, then straightened and swung the hammer into my shoulder once more. The joint burned. My body repaired it. He raised Mjolnir high, calling another bolt of lightning down through it. He directed it straight into my chest. I planted my feet and let it hit. The electricity surged through me, forcing my body to tense, but I did not fall. The light faded. Smoke rose from my armor. I exhaled once and stepped forward again. "You will have to do better," I said. Thor stared at me with a mix of frustration and admiration. "You're insane," he said. There was no real anger in the words, only honest strain. "I am Battle Beast," I answered. He smiled through blood. "Yeah, I got that." We closed in again. The storm above continued to rage. The desert around us held the marks of our fight: craters, broken ground, scorched earth. We were both slower now by a small degree, both breathing harder, but neither stopping. I could feel the ache in my muscles, the dull burn in my bones, the joy in every moment of resistance. He could keep up. He was still matching me. That mattered. I rushed forward one more time, ready for whatever he had left. The fight did not end. We met in the center of the open sand once again, hammer and fists crashing together in another wave of force, each of us refusing to fall. Chapter 7. Oath of a Thunder God. Our bodies collide again and again in the open sand. Every hit I throw, he answers. Every strike he lands, I rise through. My lungs work harder now. My chest lifts and falls with weight. It does not slow me. The ache in my arms is steady. That is acceptable. Thor looks the same, breathing rough, armor cracked, face marked with bruises and blood. But his eyes are still sharp. His stance is still firm. He charges again. I move forward to meet him. His hammer whistles through the air toward my head. I raise my forearm and block. The impact runs through the bone. I push back, shoving him off balance, then drive my fist into his ribs. I feel the armor give. He grunts and spins, using the turn to swing Mjolnir into my side. The blow lifts me half off my feet and sends me sliding. I plant my claws, dig into the mud, and stop. I feel a brief flare of irritation at the footing. The ground is wet, unstable. It slows my response by a fraction. I adjust, widening my stance. Thor wipes blood from the corner of his mouth with the back of his hand. He laughs once, low and short. "You're still enjoying this," he says. "Yes," I answer. My voice comes out steady and deep. "You remain standing." He smiles tiredly. "Yeah, so do you." He spins his hammer again. The wind pulls around him. Lightning flashes above. He leaps, flying toward me in a straight line. I step sideways and reach up, trying to grab his arm as he passes. He twists in the air, brings his knee into my chest, and knocks me back a step. Then he swings down. Mjolnir hits my shoulder. Bone and armor buckle under the weight. I growl, more in recognition than pain, and slam my fist into his leg. His knee bends. He lands awkwardly, stumbles, then steadies himself. He breathes harder now. I hear the strain in his throat. "You will break," I say calmly, "but not yet." He tightens his jaw. "Confident, aren't you?" "I am certain," I respond. "That is different." His eyes narrow, but there is a hint of amusement there. "You sound like my father." "I am not your father," I say. "I am your opponent." He exhales heavily. "Fair enough." He grips Mjolnir in both hands, lifts it, and calls the storm again. Lightning falls through the clouds straight into the hammer. The white glare surrounds him. The hair on my arms bristles from the charge in the air. He points the hammer at me and releases it. The bolt hits my chest and drives me backward, heels carving tracks in the sand. My armor glows red at the point of impact, then cools. My muscles lock for a moment under the current, then relax. My body repairs what burns. I roll my shoulders once. "You have done this already," I say. He stares at me with open frustration. "And you're still walking." "Yes," I say. "You are not done, neither am I." I start walking toward him again. He takes a step forward to meet me. Then the ground under his feet changes. The sand begins to glow. Bright color spreads in a circle beneath him, building from faint to strong. The air hums. A deep, layered sound starts under us, loud and steady. I pause mid-step and watch. Thor looks down, surprise flickering in his expression. He knows this feeling. The Bifrost is opening. Energy builds around him, swirling from his feet upward. The air thickens, almost pushing against my skin. I stop 3 strides away, close enough to see every detail in his face. He looks up at me, then over his shoulder toward the distant town, then back to me. His eyes are serious now. "They're calling me back," he says, breathing heavily. "I know," I answer. "I do know. I know this point in his path, what waits for him above, on the golden bridge and in the halls of his home." He grips Mjolnir tighter. The light around him grows brighter. The sand at his boots lifts slightly off the ground. He looks at me fully. "I have to go," he says. "Asgard needs me. My brother, my people. It's bigger than this fight." My hands curl into fists at my sides, not in anger, in rejection of interruption. My chest tightens, not with fear, but with sharp dissatisfaction. This battle is not finished. It does not sit well in me. "You intend to run," I say plainly. He shakes his head quickly. "No, this isn't running. This is duty." He flinches slightly at the word, like it tastes bitter after our fight. He straightens his shoulders. The light rising around him reflects off his armor. I will return, he says firmly. You have my word. I stare at him, unblinking. The sound of the Bifrost grows louder. The circle of light widens. Space itself seems to bend around him. Promises are air, I say. Words are weak, swear it properly. He frowns. How? His voice is loud to be heard over the energy growing under him. Promise on your honor as Thor of Asgard, I say. My tone is flat and demanding. Swear you will return for battle when you can. Swear it as a warrior. His eyes lock on mine. For one moment, his exhaustion falls away. His posture straightens fully. His grip on Mjolnir tightens. I swear, he says loudly, voice steady. On my honor as Thor of Asgard, I will return and face you again. A true fight, no interruptions. The words land solid in my chest. Satisfaction flickers through me. My jaw tightens once, then relaxes. I nod. Then go, I say. Asgard calls you, answer it, but do not break your promise. He lifts his chin. I won't. The light reaches his waist now, climbing higher. The sand under his feet is practically gone in the beam. Wind whips his cape and hair around him. He calls out one last time, voice carrying over the desert. Keep this realm standing until I'm back. I will keep myself standing, I answer. The realm is not my concern. You are. He laughs once, brief and raw, even through the noise. That sounds about right. The light rises past his chest. His features start to blur in the glare. He raises Mjolnir in salute, just a fraction, then the beam surges. The Bifrost slams fully into the ground. The flash covers my vision in color and raw energy. The sound is like a solid wall of noise. The pressure hits me in the chest. I set my feet and hold my ground. I do not move. When the light disappears, Thor is gone. In his place, a deep circular mark burns in the sand, glassy at the center where the force hit hardest. The air is still buzzing around it. The smell of scorched ground hangs heavy. I stare at the empty spot. He is gone, the fight is unfinished, but the promise is made. There is a slight pull in my chest at that, annoyance at the pause, satisfaction at the oath. I exhale slowly. My shoulders drop half an inch as my muscles ease out of their last, ready tension. I turn away from the Bifrost mark and start walking back toward the town. The storm above begins to fade. The clouds thin. Rain slows to a light fall. Distant engines hum in the dark, SHILD vehicles moving cautiously closer. My legs feel heavy from the fight. The ache is honest and solid. My body is damaged in dozens of small ways, but my healing works without my attention. Scorched patches of fur cool. Cracked bone lines seal. Skin pulls back together. The pain keeps me aware. I do not resent it. As I approach the outskirts of the ruined town, the headlights of SHILD trucks wash over me. The vehicles are parked in a loose half-circle at a distance. Agents cluster behind them, weapons out but not firing. Carlson stands near the front of one truck, coat damp, tie hanging slightly crooked. His face is set, eyes tracking my every step. Jane Foster is there too, just behind him, dirt on her cheek, eyes wide and fixed on the empty desert I came from. Selvig stands beside her, hand on her arm. Darcy peeks out from behind them, clutching a taser she knows is useless. Carlson raises a hand slightly as I approach, signaling his people to hold. I stop about 20 meters away. Dust and water drip from my armor. I breathe in once, let it out, then focus on him. He studies me like I am a bomb that decided not to explode. His voice comes out even, but I hear the strain underneath. So, he says, you're still alive. He's gone. Yes, I say. He left through the bridge of your gods. I glance back at the Bifrost mark in the distance. He will deal with his brother. He will return. Jane steps around Carlson before he can stop her. Her expression is intense and worried, but she doesn't flinch as she looks up at me. Is he okay? She asks. Her voice is tight. Thor, is he? He lives, I say. He is not defeated. He is needed elsewhere. She lets out a sharp breath and closes her eyes for a moment. Okay, she says quietly. Relief softens her shoulders. Okay. Selvig pats her arm. If what he says is true, then we'll see Thor again, he says cautiously. Darcy stares at the distant scorch mark. He just got sucked up by a rainbow space laser, she mutters. And you two were beating the crap out of each other like it was a hobby. It is my purpose, I say. My tone does not change. Carlson clears his throat. We're going to have a lot of questions about you, he says. What you are, why you're here, whether you're a threat. I look at him. To you, I ask. No, unless you try to chain me or deny me battle. He licks his lips, thinking. Right now, I'm a lot more interested in keeping my people alive than putting you in a box. Good, I say. They would not hold me. He nods slowly. Yeah, he says quietly, I believe that. We stand in silence for a few seconds. The only sounds are the low rumble of engines and the distant crackle of fires still burning in the destroyed buildings. Jane steps closer again. Her fear is still there, but curiosity pushes through. Why did you fight Thor? She asks. You could have killed him before he got his hammer back. You didn't. You protected him from that thing. Then you fought him yourself. I look down at her. I do not seek slaughter, I say. I seek battle, worthy battle. I test strength. His, mine. Just for the sake of it, she asks, confused. Yes, I answer simply. There is nothing else I need. Carlson watches my face carefully. You're strong enough to level this entire town, he says. But you haven't. You pulled the fight away from the buildings. Whether you care about people or not, that helped. I tilt my head slightly. I allow my opponents to stand, I say. If they have not disgraced themselves, that is all. He nods once. That's something. He glances back at his agents, then returns his gaze to me. Look, he says, voice measured. I can't stop you from walking away. We both know that. But if you're staying on this planet, I'd prefer we know where you are when things go bad. I move where the battles are, I say. That is enough for you to know. His mouth tightens just a bit. You really don't like details, do you? I do not need them, I answer. He almost smiles at that just a little. The expression dies quickly. If Thor trusts you enough to fight you like that and then leave you standing, I'm not going to try to pick that fight, he says. Not today. He respects strength, I say. He will return to prove his. Jane looks at me again. Will you fight him to the death? She asks quietly. I consider the question. If that is where the fight leads, I say. I do not fear that, neither does he, but I will not hunt his life. I hunt challenge. She nods slowly, clearly not fully comfortable, but understanding at least a little. Carlson glances back at the wreckage, then at the town. We've got injured people, fires, structural damage, he mutters. I don't have the energy to argue with a giant lion man who can tank lightning today. His eyes lift to mine again. You going to leave? He asks. Not far, I say. I will stay on this world. There will be more threats, more battles. I will be there when they come. His brows draw together slightly. You sound sure, he says. You know something we do. I hold his gaze. I know much more than they do. I know what moves toward this world in years to come. I know names, faces, events that have not happened yet. That is simply knowledge in my mind. I do not question how I know it. I do not care enough to. That is not your concern, I say. It is mine. Carlson exhales. Right, he says. Of course. He gestures with his hand. Agents begin to move past us, heading into the town to tend to wounded, secure the area, and gather debris. Several of them give me wide looks, but keep their distance. Darcy watches them go, then looks up at me. So what, you're just gonna hang out and wait for aliens, she asks, because I'm like 90% sure that's above my pay grade. If they come, I say, I will fight them. That is all that matters to me. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of, she mutters. Jane looks back toward where Thor vanished. If he comes back, she says softly, more to herself than to me, you'll fight him again. Yes, I say. On his honor as Thor of Asgard, he promised. I feel a small, solid satisfaction when I speak those words. Oaths matter. They give weight to combat. Selvig adjusts his glasses, looking tired. I never thought I'd stand in a desert talking to, whatever you are, about gods keeping their promises, he says. His voice is weary but not hostile. I am Battle Beast, I say. That is enough. Coulson studies me one last time. If you're going to stick around this planet, he says carefully, try not to kill my men unless they really deserve it. There is no honor in killing insects, I say. They do not interest me. He nods with a tired, resigned expression. Then we'll do our best to stay beneath your interest. I turn away from them. The ache in my body is constant now, running through my arms, shoulders, ribs, and legs. It feels good. It reminds me that this fight meant something. As I walk back into the open darkness of the desert, I glance once over my shoulder toward the still glowing mark the Bifrost left behind. You had better return, Thor, I say quietly to myself. Do not waste my patience. The wind blows over the sand in answer. I keep walking. Chapter 8. Terms of Cooperation. The desert was quiet again. I walked until the ruined town sat behind me as a line of broken shapes and dim lights. The smell of smoke and burnt metal faded with distance. My body still ached from the fight with Thor. My arms felt heavy, my ribs ached with every breath, and the skin under my armor strung in places where lightning had struck. It was good. It proved the battle had been worth my time. I found a stretch of higher ground, a ridge of hard clay and rock that overlooked the dark, open sand. I climbed it in a few quick steps and sat. The stone pressed into me, unforgiving but solid. I rested my forearms on my knees and let my breathing slow. The marks of the Bifrost were still visible in the distance, a faint, circular wound in the ground that reflected the last traces of light from the sky. Thor had left. His promise remained. That was enough for now. Time passed. The night grew deeper. The air cooled against my fur. My body healed in small, steady pulses. I let my eyes close once, not in sleep, but in stillness. There was no threat near, no opponent calling for me. Engines broke the silence. Far off, I heard the low, familiar vibration before I saw the lights. Multiple vehicles. Each engine was tuned well enough that I could tell they came from the same group. SHIELD. I opened my eyes and watched their approach. Headlights cut through the night, swinging along the base of the ridge. Dust rolled up behind the tires. The vehicles slowed as they came closer, forming a loose spread at the bottom of my position. They did not try to surround me, not fully. That showed some learning. Doors opened. Men and women stepped out in dark uniforms. They moved carefully, weapons in hand, but not fully raised. Portable floodlights were set up, throwing pale light across the stone and sand. Agent Phil Coulson stepped into the front, coat still on, shoulders stiff from a long day. His face looked more worn than before. Eyes tired, jaw tight. Beside him walked another man I recognized from this world's knowledge. Jasper Sitwell, glasses reflecting the floodlights, posture alert and cautious. Behind them, Clint Barton stood a little back and to the side, bow unstrung for once, but within reach. None of them spoke as they moved closer. They stopped halfway up the ridge and let me look down at them. I did not stand. I watched them come until they stopped. Coulson placed his hands on his hips, breathing out slowly. You picked a nice spot, he said quietly. I picked high ground, I said. My voice came out low and steady as always. It lets me see what approaches. He nodded once. Makes sense. Barton was staring at me again, openly sizing me up. His eyes moved over the cracks in my armor, the scarring, the relaxed way I sat. His expression was tense but curious. Sitwell straightened his tie. He looks like he fought a tank and won, he muttered unhappily. I did not fight a tank, I said. I fought a god and a machine. They were better opponents. Sitwell blinked, pressing his lips together. Great, he said quietly. Calson took one careful step closer. We're not here to fight you, he said. If we were, we'd have brought a lot more people and some very large guns. They would not help you, I replied calmly. He nodded again, not arguing. Probably not, he admitted. He glanced back at the others, then up at me. We're here because we have a situation, he said. You're part of it now, whether you like it or not. I do not care about your situation, I said. I care about battle. If it does not involve a strong opponent, it is nothing to me. Right, Calson said. He gave a small, tired smile. That actually brings us closer to what I want to talk about. He signaled with his hand. One of the agents brought forward a slim black case and opened it. Inside was a tablet device already active. Light glowed on its screen. Calson took it, tapped a few times, then turned it so I could see. He stayed where he was, not climbing closer. The distance remained. Images shifted on the screen, footage from the destroyed town. Me and Thor exchanging blows in the desert, recorded from far away. The destroyer tearing through the street. Mjolnir falling. Thor rising in his armor. Another swipe. Old footage from what they knew. Tony Stark in his armor in a city street. A green blur that could only be the Hulk smashing through concrete. Satellite images of strange storms. Energy readings. Calson held the tablet steady. His arms didn't shake. This is our world right now, he said. You've just seen some of it up close. There's more. A lot more. I watched the screen briefly, then looked back at him. You hunt these threats, I said. You gather data. You send insects to fight giants. We send people, Calson corrected, calm but firm. Because that's what we have. And it's our job to deal with what lands on this planet, including you. Barton shifted his weight subtly, like he was ready for trouble even though his bow was down. Sitwell adjusted his glasses and remained silent. You cannot deal with me, I said. You know this. Calson's lips pressed into a thin line. You're right, he said. We can't, not directly, but we still have to try to work with what we've got. He lowered the tablet slightly but didn't turn it off. I'm going to be very clear with you, he continued. There is no prison on this planet that can hold you. There's probably nothing we can build that would stop you if you wanted to walk through us. That's not me flattering you. That's just what I saw today. He took a breath, steadying his tone. So I'm not here with a threat. I'm here with terms. I watched him, eyes still. Speak, I said. He nodded. You're here. You clearly like fighting. You walked straight through the destroyer like it was just another day. You went toe-to-toe with Thor, and he trusted you enough to leave this realm with you still free. That is because he respects strength, I said. He is not a coward. I noticed, Calson said. He shifted his weight, then continued. We can't make you leave. We can't force you into any kind of containment. So we're left with one option that doesn't end in a lot of bodies on the floor. He tapped the tablet again and brought up a global map. Several regions were marked in red or yellow. Known hot zones, gamma incidents, sightings of advanced technology. We share information, he said. We have eyes on this world. We know when something strange hits the ground. You like strong enemies. We get plenty of those. When something appears that we can't handle, or maybe can't handle cleanly, we give you a direction. He raised his eyes to mine. You go hit it instead of us. That keeps you busy, and it keeps some of my people alive. I listened without interrupting. My fingers flexed once on my knee. It was a simple arrangement. Direct, useful. You want to feed me battles, I said. In exchange, you want peace for yourselves. Calson inclined his head. That's a blunt way of putting it, but yes, something like that. You want an agreement, I said. An understanding. Yes, he said. We don't need you to like us. We don't need you to fight for us. But if you're going to stay here, I'd rather have you pointed at something that deserves getting hit. Sitwell finally spoke. We'd also prefer if you didn't break cities whenever you feel like it, he added, tone dry but strained. I looked at him. If cities fall, it will be because they stood between me and a worthy opponent, I said. I do not seek to destroy them. They are only in the way. That's not as comforting as you think it is, Sitwell replied. Carlson cut in before the tension rose. Here, that's what we're asking, he said. You do not attack humans who are not trying to cage you. You do not kill SHIELD agents who follow orders and keep their distance. You do not start battles in populated areas just to entertain yourself. He paused, then continued. In return, when something dangerous comes along, something that even Thor might be called in for, if we can reach you, we tell you where it is. You decide if you want to go. No orders, just a direction. I considered his words. They made sense. They also suited me. I did not care about cities. I did not care about people. I cared about strong enemies. If this group had the eyes to find those, it saved me effort. I stood slowly from the rock. The three of them tensed instinctively, muscles shifting, breaths held. I stepped down the slope until I stood only a few meters from them. The floodlights cast hard shadows across my armor and fur. I looked down at Carlson. I will not be your weapon, I said flatly. I do not serve you. I will not follow orders. I will not protect weak men because you ask. I figured, he said quietly. I'm not asking for that. I nodded once. If you give me the location of a strong enemy and it interests me, I will go, I said. You do not need anything more. He studied my face. Is that a yes to information sharing? He asked. That is a yes, I said. To information only. Barton shifted his weight again, arms folding. What happens if you decide the strong enemy is us one day? He asked. Then you die, I answered without pause. But it will not be today. You have not earned that battle. He exhaled through his nose. Yeah, that's something. Carlson lifted the tablet again, tapped it twice, then lowered it. We can work with that, he said. We'll keep records of you as a very unofficial element. You will watch me, I said. He did not deny it. Yes, he said. As much as we can. It's what we do. But as long as you're not killing our people, you walk free. You could not stop me if I killed your people, I reminded him. His expression didn't change. I know, he said simply. I'm asking anyway. There was no fear in his voice. Weariness, yes. Calm acceptance, yes. But not fear. I respected that. I reached out one hand slowly and placed my claws on the top edge of the tablet, careful not to crush it. The screen showed a list now, scrolling images and files. Stark Industries, Gamma incidents, Hydra remnants, odd sightings from the north, murmurs of an artifact in the Arctic. You will call me when you find something strong, I said. Carlson nodded. We'll try, he said. Finding you might be the hard part. You found me tonight, I said. We followed the crater and your footprints, he replied. Next time might not be that easy. I thought for a moment, then said, You do not need to find me. I will find you. He raised his brows slightly. How? You carry your symbol everywhere, I said. The emblem on your vehicles, your uniforms, your equipment. I know it now. I straightened a little. Wherever your mark gathers in great numbers, there will be a threat. I will come when I choose. His mouth eased into a faint, tired half-smile. That's unorthodox, he said, but it might work. Sitwell cleared his throat. Director Fury will need a full report, he said. He's not going to be thrilled about an uncontrollable alien warrior wandering around Earth. He can be not thrilled from his office, Barton replied under his breath. Carlson didn't react to that. He kept his eyes on me. This arrangement goes both ways, he said. If you decide to turn on us, this ends. If we see you slaughter civilians for no reason, this ends. If you go after someone we're trying to protect, this gets complicated fast. I do not kill without reason, I said, but my reasons are not yours. Remember that. He nodded. I'll keep it in mind. He closed the tablet's case and handed it back to the agent. Then he looked up at me one last time. Anything else you want from us? He asked. Information, resources, supplies. We can't give you everything, but— I need nothing from you, I interrupted. I do not eat your food. I do not sleep in your beds. I do not wear your armor. All I need is battle. You bring me that, and you will have what you want. Fewer dead men when something stronger than you arrives. His shoulders relaxed by a fraction. Then we have our understanding, he said. Yes, I replied. We do. He stepped back a half step and inclined his head. We'll be in touch, battle beast, he said. I watched him. I will watch your world, I answered. When you are in over your head and the fight is worth my time, I will come. You do not control that. Accept it. He took that in slowly, then nodded once. Understood, he said. Coulson turned away, signaling his people. Sitwell followed, not taking his eyes off me until he was almost at the vehicle. Barton lingered a moment longer, looking at me like he was trying to memorize every detail. You know, Barton said finally, for what it's worth, thanks for not turning that destroyer thing on us instead. I met his gaze. You were not worth my effort, I said. He huffed, half amused, half annoyed. I'll take that as a compliment, he said. He turned and walked back to the truck. Doors shut. Engines rumbled back to life. The vehicles turned away from the ridge and started back toward the broken town, then further to whatever base they would set up next. Within minutes, the lights were smaller. Within half an hour, they were gone from sight entirely. The desert was quiet again. I stood on the ridge alone, feeling the last of the strain in my arms settle into a solid, dull heaviness. My chest rose and fell slowly. The ache in my bones stayed, then faded little by little. The wounds knit fully. I rolled my shoulders once. My body was ready again. I looked up at the sky. It was clear now. No storm, only distant stars. I thought of Asgard, of Thor, of the promise he gave me. There was a faint sense of anticipation inside me, not excitement, not joy, just expectation. You promised, I said to the empty air. Do not break it. The wind moved over the ridge in answer. I turned away from the lights of the town and began walking deeper into the desert. There would be other threats, other enemies. The humans would chase them. Their symbol would gather like insects around a wound. And when the battle was worthy, I would come. Chapter 9. Harlem Street Battle. The call came at night. I was sitting on the edge of a plateau, watching a dull human city in the distance. Its lights blinked in weak patterns. The air was cold and still. I could hear almost nothing but wind and my own breathing. A faint hum touched the edge of my hearing. I turned my head. A helicopter cut through the dark sky, running without full lights. The sound of the blades grew louder as it approached my position. They had found me again. The helicopter hovered at the edge of the plateau. Wind kicked dust and grit against my armor and fur. A side door slid open. Agent Coulson leaned out, holding onto a rail, headset on his head, coat collar pressed down by the rotor wash. He shouted over the noise, "We've got something big." I stood and walked toward the edge. The pilot held the helicopter steady as I stepped forward. I grabbed the side frame and pulled myself inside with one motion. The cabin shook briefly from the shift in weight, but the pilot corrected. The door slammed shut. Inside, everything was cramped compared to my size. Seats lined the walls, monitors hung from a central rack. Two agents sat strapped in, eyes on screens. On one display, a live feed showed a city street at night. Fire burned between buildings. A massive creature tore through a car with bone spikes jutting from its back. Abomination. On another screen, a green giant slammed into the side of a building. Hulk. I stepped closer. The floor creaked under my weight. One of the agents flinched when I passed. Coulson turned the monitor toward me more fully. Harlem, he said. New York. General Ross is running a military operation there. It went bad. I watched the footage. The abomination roared and swung a broken length of metal, smashing through a vehicle. Hulk charged back at him, tackled him, and they both hit the ground hard. You did not stop this, I said. We're not in charge of this one, Coulson said. Ross is. He's been hunting Banner, Hulk for a long time. We're watching. And now, he looked up at me. Now I'm calling you. My chest tightened slightly, not with concern, but with interest. They are both strong, I said. Yes, Coulson said. One is barely on our side. The other is not. They are both strong, I repeated. That is what matters. He knew better than to argue with that. We're close enough to insert you, he said instead. Ross has tanks, infantry, and helicopters in the area. They're struggling to contain the fight. You jump in, you draw some of the heat, maybe keep the death toll down while you do what you do. I did not answer him right away. I watched the screen. Hulk slammed Abomination into the side of a building. Abomination responded with a kick that sent Hulk into the street, breaking asphalt and hurling debris. I felt my heart rate pick up. I will join this battle, I said. Coulson nodded quickly. Didn't doubt it, he said. We'll get you over the center. The helicopter banked. I felt the turn in the tilt of my weight. The city lights grew closer with every second. The smell of smoke reached us even from here, carried by the wind. Sirens echoed faintly. The blades of other helicopters chopped the air. Coulson pressed a hand to his earpiece. This is Coulson, he said. We have visual on the engagement. Hulk and the other target are in direct contact. We're dropping an asset into the zone. A harsh voice answered from the radio. General Ross. Asset, he growled. I don't need another asset, I need firepower. You might get both, sir, Coulson replied. Ross cursed. Whatever you're doing, don't make it worse. I ignored their words. I moved to the open door as Coulson slid it back again. The cabin filled with the roar of wind and the noise of the city. We were above Harlem now. Below, the streets burned. Cars lay overturned, some on fire, some flattened. Windows on several buildings were shattered. People ran in every direction, scattering away from the main avenue. In the center of it all, Hulk and Abomination clashed. Abomination swung a large piece of metal, the remains of a vehicle, and hit Hulk across the shoulders. Hulk stumbled, then leapt forward and tackled Abomination into the side of a building. Concrete fell in chunks around them. Drop point, the pilot called. Coulson pointed down. There, he shouted, between them near the intersection. I planted my feet at the edge of the doorway. Coulson looked at me once more. Try not to kill the green one, he said. He's useful. I will not hold back, I said. I know, he replied. I stepped into the open air. The wind rushed around me as I fell. The ground came up fast. I turned my body so my feet hit first. I landed in the intersection between Hulk and Abomination. The impact cracked the asphalt and sent a shock through the nearby wreckage. Cars bounced slightly. Loose glass shattered. I straightened from the small crater and looked at both of them. Abomination turned first. His skin was a twisted, sickly color. Bones jutted from his back and elbows. His eyes glowed with a dull, hungry light. His breathing was rough, and he stank of blood and rage. Hulk pushed himself up from where he had been slammed. His body was thick with muscle, skin dark green and slick with sweat. His eyes were bright with anger, but he focused, tracking his enemy. For a brief moment, both monsters stared at me. Abomination narrowed his eyes. What the hell is this? He said, voice rough and distorted. Ross sending him pets now. Hulk growled, chest rising and falling heavily. He clenched his fists, looking at me, then at Abomination, confused but ready. I smiled, baring my teeth. Good, I said. Both of you strong. Abomination tilted his head, then laughed. You picked the wrong street, whatever you are, he said. I'll take you apart after I'm done with the green boy. He lunged first. He came at me with his full weight, swinging the metal slab in a brutal horizontal arc aimed at my head. I dropped low, the edge of the slab passing over my horns, then surged forward and drove my shoulder into his midsection. The impact stopped his momentum and lifted him off his feet. We slid across the street, tearing up asphalt under our combined mass, then crashed into a parked bus. The bus crumpled. Abomination snarled and hammered both fists down on my back. The blows were heavy, but they did not break me. I roared and punched him point blank in the side of the head. His skull snapped sideways. He tore free and kicked me in the chest, pushing me back into the street. Something heavy hit me from behind. Hulk. He had charged in while I was locked with Abomination. His fist slammed into my back and knocked me forward. I rolled, dug my claws into the street, and rose to one knee. I glanced back over my shoulder at him. "Good," I said. "You do not stand aside." Hulk roared in my face. "Hulk smash!" he shouted, voice booming. He leaped at me, both fists raised. I met his jump with an upward punch, hitting him in the stomach. The air left him in a sharp grunt. He sailed over me, crashed into the ground, rolled, and came up on his feet again, furious. Abomination came from the side, swinging again with the metal slab. This time it caught my side, bending slightly on impact. The force pushed me off balance. Hulk took that opening and charged at both of us. All three of us collided in the middle of the intersection. Concrete split under the pressure. The noise was thick. For several seconds, there was only the sound of bodies hitting, fists crashing, and wreckage breaking. Hulk grabbed my arm and tried to twist it. I ripped my arm free and pushed him back with a shove to the chest. Abomination wrapped his arms around my torso, trying to crush my ribs. I pushed back with my own strength, muscles straining, and broke his hold with a violent jerk of my shoulders. He stumbled back. I seized the front of his chest and headbutted him. Bone spikes cut into my forehead. Blood ran briefly, then stopped as I healed. Hulk attacked from the left. He drove a fist into my ribcage with enough power to shove me sideways. I shifted, letting the hit roll through my body, then spun and hit him under the jaw with a rising punch. He flew back and slammed into the side of a police car. The car collapsed under him. Above us, a military helicopter circled low. Spotlights swept the street. Through the glass, I saw General Ross, face drawn, jaw clenched. Betty Ross sat near him, eyes wide and fearful as she watched the monsters below. "What is that thing?" Ross shouted over the comms. "New player," a voice answered. Ross scowled. "Shoot them all if you get a clear shot." The soldiers on nearby rooftops aimed their weapons, but the constant motion of the fight kept them from firing. Abomination shook his head, recovering from the headbutt. He grinned, teeth dark and crooked. "You hit hard," he growled. "Good, I was getting bored with just him." He pointed a thumb back at Hulk. I stepped toward him. "You are strong," I said. "Not disciplined, but strong." He snarled and lunged again. This time he came low and fast, claws scraping along the ground as he slammed into my waist. He drove us both forward, dragging me through a row of parked cars. Metal buckled, glass shattered. We stopped only when we hit the front of a building. He pinned me against the wall with his arm across my chest. His other fist hammered into my face, once, twice, 3 times. The building groaned behind me with each impact. I grabbed his wrist on the 4th hit and squeezed. Bone cracked under my grip. His eyes widened with pain and surprise. I twisted his arm and slammed my other fist into his throat. He stumbled back, choking. I stepped away from the wall and followed, punching him in the stomach, then in the chest. Each blow drove him back further into the street. Hulk roared and rejoined the fight, slamming into both of us from the side. All 3 of us went down in a heap of limbs and debris. We rolled across the street, breaking everything in our path. Hulk wound up a punch and hit me in the side of the head. My ears rang. I answered with a heavy backhand across his jaw. His head snapped sideways, and he lost his footing for a moment. Abomination recovered and grabbed Hulk from behind, wrapping an arm around his neck and lifting him off the ground. Hulk clawed at the arm, feet kicking. I stepped in and drove my fist into Abomination's ribs. I felt something crack. He snarled and kicked me straight in the chest, sending me skidding backward. Hulk broke his hold and dropped to the ground. Fire burned in a nearby building. Heat pressed against my skin. The smell of burning fuel and concrete filled the air. Civilians screamed from deeper in the neighborhood. I ignored them. They were not part of this battle. They were in the way, but that was not my concern. The three of us were the only ones that mattered here. Hulk roared again and went straight for Abomination, tackling him onto a smashed taxi. The frame bent under their weight. Abomination hammered his fists into Hulk's back, but Hulk did not let go. I moved in and grabbed them both, one hand on Hulk's back, the other on Abomination's shoulder. I yanked them off the taxi and flung them in opposite directions. They crashed into separate buildings, sending down showers of broken stone and glass. "Stand," I called out. "Do not waste my time." Abomination dragged himself out of the rubble first, laughing even as blood dripped from his jaw. "You want all of it, huh?" he said. "Fine by me." He rolled his neck, bones cracking audibly, then charged again. Hulk emerged from a fallen wall, eyes blazing with rage. He roared and leapt, closing the distance in one jump. They both came at me at once. I braced my legs. My claws dug into the broken street. My fists came up. Abomination's punch hit my left side. Hulk's fist hit my right. For a moment, I stood still under their combined strength, feeling the weight of both impacts. Pain shot through my torso, sharp and satisfying. I shoved back with both arms, sending each of them a step away. "Good," I said. My teeth were bared in a wide smile. "Two strong foes. This is worthy." Hulk snarled. "Hulk not like you," he shouted. "Hulk smash both." "Try," I said. He charged again, swinging low. Abomination moved in at the same time, trying to leap onto my back and drag me down. I twisted. Hulk's punch grazed my side. I reached up and grabbed Abomination by the throat mid-leap, then slammed him into the ground on his back. The pavement cratered under the impact. He coughed, blood spraying from his mouth. Hulk seized the opening and hit me full in the chest with a straight punch. The blow pushed me back several meters. I crashed into the hood of a car, folding it in half, then bounced off and landed on my feet. Hulk followed, swinging again. I ducked under his arm and hooked him by the leg, lifting and tossing him into a nearby storefront. Glass and frame shattered as he passed through. Abomination was already back on his feet. He smashed into my side, lifting me partially off the ground, and drove me through the remains of another car. We rolled, each of us striking at the other, claws and fists raking armor and skin. He got his hands around my throat and squeezed, trying to crush my windpipe. My vision narrowed slightly from the pressure, but there was no fear. I grabbed his wrists and forced them apart through sheer strength. His fingers slipped, unable to hold. I slammed my forehead into his again. More bone broke. He let go with a growl of pain. I rose to full height and punched him in the chest with both fists at once. The hit knocked him back across the street. He crashed into a streetlight and brought it down with him. Hulk burst out of the storefront, roaring louder than before. He grabbed a large piece of concrete and hurled it at me. I turned and swatted it aside, smashing it into smaller chunks. He did not wait to see if it hit. He was already closing in, feet pounding on the ruined ground. He jumped, both fists raised. I met him with a jab straight to the face. The hit broke his momentum, but he still collided with me. We crashed to the ground and rolled again. He hammered his fists into my chest, 1, 2, 3 times in rapid succession. The impacts sank into muscle and bone, but my body held. I snarled and threw him off, then climbed to my feet. He landed in a crouch, braced, and glared at me. We were all breathing harder now. Hulk's massive chest rose and fell in heavy bursts. Abomination's movements were rough and uneven, one side of his ribs not aligning properly anymore. My own body carried dozens of fresh marks, each one healing at different speeds beneath the fur and armor. Above, General Ross's helicopter circled. Betty pressed herself against the glass, eyes wide, watching the three of us tear the street apart. "What is that white one doing?" she asked, voice strained. "Fighting both of them," Ross answered. His voice was tight, frustrated. "Either it's insane or it thinks it can win." I could not hear them from the ground, but I did not need to. I knew what they saw. 3 monsters, 1 street, no restraint. Abomination spat blood and grinned. "You're tough," he said, voice rough. "I like it." "I do not care what you like," I replied. "I care that you hit back." Hulk pounded his fists together, sending a small shock through the air. "Hulk's strongest there is," he shouted. "We will see," I said. I stepped forward. Abomination stepped forward. Hulk stepped forward. All 3 of us charged at once. We met in a spinning mess of fists, claws, and muscle. The sound shook the blocks around us. Buildings trembled. Windows shattered. The street split further, opening deep cracks across the asphalt. Hulk's fist hit my jaw. My fist hit Abomination's face. Abomination's elbow slammed into Hulk's ribs. We traded blows without pause, each strike heavy enough to kill lesser beings outright. I felt alive. The fight was not finished. Chapter 10. Fire from above. Hulk's fist crashed into my jaw again. The impact snapped my head to the side. My neck muscles tightened, controlling the turn. Pain flashed once, then settled into a dull, warm ache. I stepped back with the hit, let it bleed off through my stance, then came forward again. Abomination hit my ribs from the other side, his elbow driving into the armor with enough force to bend it. My body reacted on instinct. I twisted, caught his arm under mine, and slammed my forehead into his face. Bone spikes cut into my skin. I felt blood roll down between my eyes, then felt it stop as the flesh closed. We were in the middle of the street. Buildings on both sides were torn open, glass shattered, cars overturned. Flames licked at ruined vehicles. The air stank of fuel and dust. Hulk roared behind me and jumped, slamming both fists into my back. The blow pushed me forward into Abomination. I wrapped my arms around him and drove him backward, our combined weight crushing a sedan flat before we rolled over it. He raked claws across my side. I answered with a punch to his throat. He gagged, eyes bulging, then snarled and kicked me off him. I skidded across torn asphalt and came up in a low stance, claws digging into the ground. Hulk charged again. He leapt, fists raised. I met him halfway. My right fist buried itself in his stomach midair. His body folded around the blow for a second, then he crashed into me anyway, and we both went down. We hit the ground hard. He swung for my head. I caught his forearm, shoved it aside, and drove an uppercut into his chin. His head snapped back, teeth clacking together. He rolled away, then sprang up with another roar. Abomination slammed into my side, taking advantage of the moment. His shoulder drove into my ribs and picked me off the ground. He ran, pushing me through a parked car and into a fire hydrant. The metal snapped. Water blasted up around us. He pinned me against the curb with his forearm and tried to crush my throat with his other hand. I grabbed his wrist and squeezed. Bones shifted under my fingers. He snarled in my face, spit flying, breath thick with blood. "You're tough," he growled. "I'll give you that." "I don't need your praise," I said. My voice stayed calm. "I need your strength." I released his wrist just long enough to slam a hook into his ribs. I felt the crack cleanly through my knuckles. His eyes widened. I hit him again in the same spot. His breath left him in a harsh wheeze. He pulled back as much as he could and kicked me off, sending me sliding through the shallow water already pooling on the ground. I dug my claws into the street and stood again. Hulk pushed aside a burning door and stepped out of the front of a building he had been thrown into. Smoke rolled around him. His chest rose and fell heavily, muscles flexing with every breath. His eyes glowed with rage. He saw me, then Abomination. He snarled. "Hulk, smash both," he shouted. He took 2 steps and leapt, coming for us in a long arc. Abomination and I both moved to meet him. We collided in the center. All three of us crashed together. My fist hit Abomination's jaw. Hulk's fist struck my shoulder. Abomination's claws raked across Hulk's back. We spun and broke apart in opposite directions, sending chunks of asphalt and metal flying. Above, a helicopter circled low. Blades cut the air in a tight rhythm. Spotlights swept across the wreckage, trying to track us as we moved. Through the cockpit window, I saw General Ross, headset on, jaw clenched, eyes locked on the fight. Beside him sat Betty Ross, holding onto a strap, fear tight on her face. "Get me a clear line of fire," Ross barked over his radio. "Bring those guns forward." On several rooftops, military vehicles repositioned. A mobile launcher swung into angle. Gunners tried to track us through scopes, but we were moving too fast and too close together. Hulk grabbed a chunk of concrete and hurled it at Abomination. It hit his shoulder and spun him around. I stepped in and kicked his leg out from under him. He went down on one knee. He snarled, drove his fist into my thigh, and knocked my leg sideways. I dropped to a partial kneel, then shoved him back and rose. "Hit them," Ross shouted. "Now." A pilot's voice came through. "We don't have a clean shot, sir. They're right on top of each other." "Then wait for one," Ross yelled. Hulk charged me again. His fist collided with my chest. I stepped into it, absorbed the impact, and pushed him back with a straight punch to the face. He stumbled. Abomination used the opening. He leapt, grabbing onto Hulk's back, and hammered both fists into the sides of his head. Hulk roared and fell forward, rolling and slamming Abomination back into the ground. They grappled, trading heavy blows on the torn street. I walked toward them, measuring them with each step. "You two are worthy," I said. "This is good." Neither answered me. They were too busy trying to tear each other apart. "Sir," a gunner called over Ross's channel. "They've separated. We have an angle." "Take the shot," Ross snapped. "Fire." I heard the launch before I saw it. A sharp whoosh. The air trembled lightly. The shell or rocket flew low and fast, coming in from the side, aimed at the cluster of monsters in the street. I looked up. In the half-second where the projectile cut through the spotlight beam, I saw its path clearly. It would hit all of us if we stayed where we were. My muscles moved before thought finished. I pushed off hard. "Move," I growled. I jumped sideways, out of the direct line. The street crunched under my landing. Fragments of debris showered my back. Hulk's instincts were fast. He glanced up, saw the incoming projectile, and leapt backward, legs coiling and uncoiling in one motion. He bounced off the side of a building and onto a rooftop, then to another, moving away from the blast path. Abomination turned too slowly. The shell crashed into him, dead center. The explosion was loud and close. Fire and pressure slammed outward. The blast wave rolled over me, pushing me back a step. Heat licked at my armor, then faded. Shattered stone and metal rained down as the fireball collapsed into smoke. Abomination lay at the center of the impact point. He was not gone, but he was broken. His chest had been torn open, bone spikes twisted and cracked. One arm hung loosely at his side at an unnatural angle. He tried to move, failed, and let out a rough, wet laugh that turned into a cough. From above, Ross watched, breath uneven. "Target hit," a soldier reported. "Is it dead?" Ross demanded. "Negative, sir. It's still moving. Barely." "Keep eyes on it," Ross snapped. "If it gets up again, hit it again." The smoke thinned. I looked down at Abomination. He stared back up at me, lips pulled in something like a grin. "You hit hard," he rasped. Even when it's not you." "You were too slow," I said. He chuckled once, then winced. "Story of my life." His head fell back against the asphalt. He lay there, chest rising and falling in harsh, uneven breaths. I turned away from him and looked up. Hulk stood on the edge of a nearby rooftop, chest heaving. He stared at the spot where Abomination lay, then at the helicopters and vehicles repositioning. Soldiers adjusted their aim now that the dust was settling. The guns were shifting toward him. Betty watched him through the glass of her father's helicopter. Hulk saw her. His shoulders dropped slightly. He looked between her, the army, and the ruined street. "Hulk," he growled quietly, as if weighing something heavy in his head. A spotlight locked onto him. Several guns pivoted upward. "Bring him down," Ross shouted. "Don't let him get away." The first shots rang out. I saw Hulk's body tense. He snarled once more, then bent his legs and launched himself away. He soared over the rooftops, disappearing into the dark city. "Damn it!" Ross slammed a fist against the side of his seat. "He's getting away." "Do you want us to fire, sir?" a gunner called out. "He's headed into civilian areas." Ross hesitated. I saw his jaw tighten, his eyes go distant for a brief second. He knew what more shots would do to this city. "Negative," he said at last, voice hard. "Stand down, track him only. We're done shooting for tonight." The weapons lowered. The light turned away from the rooftops and came back to the street. To me. I stood in the intersection, surrounded by wreckage, looking back up at the helicopter. For a moment, nothing moved. Then an all-too-familiar symbol appeared at the edge of the chaos. Black SUVs turned the corner, avoiding the worst of the wreckage. Their tires crunched over broken glass. They pulled up behind the military line with measured confidence. SHIELD logos were visible on the doors. Carlson stepped out of the lead vehicle, coat moving lightly in the night air. His face was tired but focused. Several SHIELD tactical agents stepped out behind him, weapons held low but ready. Ross's helicopter dipped slightly, circling lower. "What the hell is SHIELD doing here?" Ross demanded into his radio. "Observing," Carlson's calm voice answered over the shared channel. "Offering assistance." "You brought that thing," Ross growled. "Is that yours?" "No," Carlson said. "He's not ours. We just happen to know what he responds to." I watched Carlson walk toward me over the broken street. His agents moved with him, keeping a careful distance, eyes tracking my hands, my posture, my breathing. He stopped a few meters away, tilting his head up to look at me. "You're still standing," he said simply. "Yes," I replied. "They were strong, not enough." His gaze flicked briefly to Abomination, then back to me. "You took on both," he said. "That went better than I expected." "I did not stop them for you," I said. "I fought because they were worth my time." "I know," he said quietly, and somehow that still helped. General Ross landed nearby. His helicopter touched down with a heavy thud. Soldiers moved to secure the area, guns raised, but not aimed directly at me yet. Ross stepped out, face set in a hard line. Betty remained in the helicopter, watching through the glass. Ross strode toward us, boots crunching on broken stone. He glared up at me first, then at Carlson. "What are you doing with this thing?" Ross demanded. "You bring it in, you controlling it." "No," Carlson answered. "He doesn't take orders. Trust me, we've checked." Ross looked back up at me. His eyes held anger, calculation, and a grudging hint of wariness. "You interfered in my operation," he said to me directly. "Do you know that?" "I entered a battle that interested me," I said. "Your operation is nothing to me. Your enemy was strong. That is all that matters." "Your interest shredded 2 more blocks," Ross snapped. "We were trying to contain the fight, not add a new one." "You failed without me," I said. "You saw that." He opened his mouth to argue, then shut it, jaw working. He knew I was right. He hated that. He turned slightly toward Carlson. "Get it out of my city," he said sharply. "Now, before I decide to test every weapon I've got left on it." Carlson gave a small, professional nod. "We were planning to extract him anyway," he said. I turned my head to look at him. "Extract," I repeated. "You want me to leave with you?" "Yes," Carlson said. "You got what you wanted, a good fight. Hulk is gone. Abomination is down. The army is on edge. If you stay in the middle of this, someone is going to do something stupid." I do not care if they do, I said. He met my eyes without flinching. I care, he replied. And if this gets worse, Director Fury will have questions. I don't like those questions. I breathed out slowly. My chest still felt heavy from the fight, but the strain was fading. I had tested both of them. I knew their strength now, Hulk's raw power, Abomination's viciousness and lack of control. Neither had killed me. Both had given me what I wanted, resistance. The battle here was done. Staying to tear apart the army would be meaningless. They were not my enemies. They were not worthy prey. Killing them would have no honor in it. I looked past Coulson at the nearest SHILD truck. The rear doors were open, ramped down, interior reinforced but not constricting. Enough space for me to sit, enough to move. You want to pick me up, I said. Yes, Coulson answered. We'll get you out of Ross's line of sight. We'll talk somewhere quieter. You can tell me what you thought of Earth's strongest monsters so far. I do not speak about my fights, I said. I remember them, that is enough. He allowed a faint, tired smile. Then just ride along in silence, he said. I don't mind, I'm used to that. Ross glared at both of us. Take it, he snapped to Coulson. Get it off my battlefield, and don't bring it to mine again without warning. I'll make a note, Coulson said. He turned back to me. Well, he asked, you coming? I considered it for only a breath. SHILD would know where the next strong threat appeared. They would gather around it, whether they meant to or not. Riding with them was a direct path to the next good fight. I nodded once. I will go with you, I said. You cannot force me, but I choose to. I know, Coulson said. That's the only reason this works. He gestured toward the open truck. The SHILD soldiers standing nearby tensed, but did not back away. Their hands tightened on their weapons. Sweat shone on their faces in the streetlights. I walked past them. As I climbed into the truck, I felt their fear in the way they held themselves. None of them ran. None of them broke. They stayed at their posts. They were weak, but not entirely without backbone. I lowered myself into the truck's interior and sat with my back against the reinforced wall. The metal groaned slightly under my weight, then held. Coulson stepped back and signaled the driver. Move, he called. The doors closed. The engine rumbled. The vehicle lurched forward, bumping over shattered pavement as it pulled away from the ruined intersection. Through a small slit in the rear, I watched the scene shrink. Abomination lay motionless in the street, surrounded by soldiers and vehicles. Restraint gear was being dragged toward him. Ross stood in the center of it all, barking orders. The sound faded as we drove away. I closed my eyes for a moment. Hulk was somewhere in the city now, running, hiding, calming down. He would survive. He would rage again another day. Abomination would live in chains, a reminder of failed power. They were still on this world. And so was I. The truck rolled on through the night. Chapter 11, Weighing the Monsters. The ride to the facility was long and uneven. The SHILD truck rattled whenever it hit broken pavement. I sat with my back against the reinforced wall, knees bent, claws resting on the floor. The space was tight for me, but not enough to matter. The metal around me smelled of oil, gun lubricant, and old dust. My body was still marked from the battle. My ribs ached with every breath where Hulk and Abomination had struck. My shoulder burned faintly under the armor where a fragment from Ross's blast had cut in. My jaw throbbed from the last few punches. I could feel the wounds closing little by little, the tearing muscles knitting back together. It was not instant. Good. The damage had been real. A battle that leaves nothing is a waste. The truck finally slowed. The vibrations under my feet changed from rough to smoother concrete. We turned several times, then came to a full stop. Voices sounded outside. Doors opened and shut. Orders moved back and forth in calm, tight exchanges. The rear doors of the truck unlocked and swung open. Cool, recycled air washed in. I smelled rubber, metal, and faint traces of jet fuel. I stepped out. We were inside a large hangar. The ceiling was high, lined with metal beams and heavy lights. One side held a parked jet covered in maintenance scaffolding. The opposite side held crates and mobile equipment set into neat rows. A few vehicles were parked near a far wall. Armed agents stood in a half circle at a distance, weapons lowered but not slung. Their expressions were sharp, alert, nervous. They watched every step I took. I ignored them. My eyes went to the center of the hangar floor. A clear space had been left there, wide and open, nothing within 20 meters of it. That was for me. No cage, no chains, no attempt at a trap that would only offend me. I walked to that space and stopped. My claws clicked against the smooth concrete. The sound echoed up in the wide room. I rolled my shoulders once and stretched my neck, feeling the last bits of stiffness work themselves out. Still on his feet, a voice muttered from the side. Agent Carlson approached from near the hangar entrance. He wore the same suit as before, tie straight this time, but with a fresh line of sweat at his collar. His movements were measured and controlled. He held a folder in one hand and a tablet in the other. Behind him walked Jasper Sitwell, glasses on, expression wary and calculating. A few steps further back, another man stood near a side stairway, half in shadow, dark coat, shaved head, single eye, Nick Fury. He watched but did not come closer. For now. Carlson stopped a few meters in front of me. The distance he had decided was safe. He looked up, eyes steady. "How's the body?" he asked. "You took a lot of hits." "I am fine," I said. My voice was even calm. "They did not break me." He nodded once. "I didn't think they would." He glanced down briefly at the folder in his hand, then back up. "We'd like to talk, not an interrogation," he added lightly. "A debrief. You fought them closer than anyone else on this planet. I want your assessment." "I am not your soldier," I said. "I do not give reports." "I know," he replied. "I'm asking as the man who has to clean up after tonight. I need to know what we're dealing with. You saw what they can do. You felt it. That gives you perspective we don't have." I looked at him in silence for a few seconds. He held my gaze without flinching. He was not strong, not in the way that interested me, but he did not show fear, even when it would be understandable. That was something. Finally, I inclined my head once. "I will answer," I said, "because it serves me. Knowing your monsters helps me choose my fights." "I'll take it," Carlson said quietly. He gestured to a nearby metal crate. "Mind if I sit?" he asked. "It does not matter to me," I said. He stepped over and sat on the crate, keeping his posture straight. Sitwell remained standing a few steps behind and to his right, arms folded. Fury stayed where he was, watching everything with his good eye and saying nothing. Carlson set the folder on his lap and activated the tablet. The screen lit his face from below. "All right," he said. "Let's start with the obvious." He glanced at his notes. Targets, Hulk and the other one were calling Abomination. You engaged both at close range. You tested their limits. I need threat levels, comparisons, anything you can tell me. I folded my arms across my chest. The movement pulled at the fading pain in my shoulder. I let it. "Start with the Hulk," I said. Carlson nodded. "Good enough for me. What did you think?" I thought back to the fight, to the first hit, to the last. "His strength grows as he fights," I said slowly. "At the beginning he was strong, not extraordinary. As his rage rose, his power increased. His speed, too. By the time he fled, his blows had more weight than early in the battle." Carlson frowned slightly. "You're saying he gets stronger the longer he's in combat?" "Yes," I said. "He fights like a fire that feeds on itself. He is not at his maximum at the start. He builds." Carlson typed a few notes without looking down, his fingers moving by habit. "Durability?" he asked. "He can take a beating," I answered. "My fists hurt him, but my hardest strikes did not break him. His body bends and absorbs damage. Bones do not shatter easily. Flesh heals quickly, not as fast as mine, but enough." He looked up. You think you could have killed him? He asked. If I used everything, I said. If I pressed, did not allow him space to run, and focused only on his destruction, then yes, I believe so. But it would not be clean. He has potential. If the fight lasted long enough, there is a chance he would match even my strength. That was not a complaint. It was a fact. A small knot of satisfaction formed in my chest when I said it. Carlson's eyebrows lifted a little. That sounds like respect, he said. It is respect, I said. He fights honestly. He does not play. He hits with all his weight. I value that. Sitwell spoke for the first time. Is he controllable? He asked. Could someone use him, direct him, weaponize him? I turned my head to look at him. He is a creature of rage, I said. He does not follow commands well. He reacts, protects what he cares about, destroys what angers him. You cannot aim that like a gun. You can only push it and hope you are not in its path. Sitwell grimaced slightly. So difficult, but not impossible. You will try anyway, I said. Humans always do. I did not say it with contempt. It was just true. Carlson shifted the subject. What about Abomination? He asked. How does he compare? I rolled my shoulders once, easing the last tension out. Abomination is weaker than Hulk, I said. In raw power, his strikes had weight but not as much depth. His body is dense but not as resilient. He took damage and did not recover quickly. Hulk adapted as we fought. Abomination degraded. But Abomination seemed more focused, Carlson said. He talked. He aimed civilian targets. He baited Hulk. He has more control of his mind, I agreed. He thinks like a soldier. He enjoys causing harm. That gives him edge in strategy. It does not change his limits. His strength is high but fixed. Hulk's is not. Carlson typed more notes. Threat to civilians, he asked. Abomination will always be more willing to target the weak, I said. He seeks cruelty. Hulk only hits what stands between him and his anger. That makes Abomination more dangerous to those who cannot fight. Carlson nodded slowly, lips pressed together. If they fought one-on-one, no interference, who wins? I considered the idea again, though I already knew. If given time, Hulk, I answered. Abomination might have an advantage at the start, but the longer the battle lasts, the worse it gets for him. Hulk will surpass him, eventually crush him. Carlson took that in, his gaze distant for a moment. So you'd rank Hulk above Abomination as a long-term threat, he said. Yes, I replied, I would. Where do you place yourself? Sitwell asked suddenly. Above both, between them, below. I turned back to him. I am Battle Beast, I said. There is nothing like me on this world. I let the words hang for a second, then added, now. Sitwell's throat bobbed. He looked away briefly. Carlson did not react much, but his eyes sharpened a little. That matches what we saw, he said. You took hits from both and kept walking. Your healing factor is extreme. I flexed one hand. The knuckles were no longer raw. The skin had already smoothed, fur regrown. My body is made for war, I said. I do not break easily. That is what I am. Carlson studied the motion of my hand, then looked back up. What about personality? He asked. If you had to describe them as opponents, not just muscle and bone. I narrowed my eyes slightly. Why does that matter? I asked. Because we may have to deal with them again, he said. Knowing how they think helps us react. You approach them as a warrior. That gives a different angle than a scientist or a general. I accepted that explanation. Hulk is simple, I said. Honest. He fights what stands in front of him. He does not lie. He does not pretend. When he wants to hit something, he hits it. That makes him predictable in some ways. If you stay out of his line of anger, he mostly ignores you. Carlson nodded. And Abomination. He is cruel for its own sake, I said. He enjoys pain. He enjoys taunting. He targeted civilians to bait Hulk because he knew it would work. He has a soldier's training but a broken sense of restraint. He will always go too far if not stopped. Carlson's jaw tightened at that. Yeah, he said softly. That tracks with what we know about Emil Blonsky. I remembered the name from this world's knowledge. A soldier who wanted to be more than he was, until the hunger destroyed him from inside. He is beneath Hulk, I repeated, in spirit and in strength. Fury finally spoke from his place near the stairs. His voice carried easily across the hangar. You enjoyed that, he said, all of it. I turned my head to look at him fully for the first time. Yes, I said without hesitation. They were worthy, not on my level but close enough to feel. That is rare. Fury's one eye studied me, weighing something. And you'll do it again if we point you in the right direction, he said. I frowned slightly. You do not point me, I said. You show me where a fight is. I decide if it interests me. Do not confuse that. Fury gave a small, short nod. Fine, he said. We'll show you. You've already proven useful. Tonight could have been worse. It could have been better, I said. If Ross had not fired when he did, Abomination would have given more. That blast shortened the fight. You're complaining that we stopped the rampage too early, Sitwell asked, incredulous. I am stating a fact, I said. You ended a battle that still had strength in it. That is your choice. It is not mine. Coulson gave Sitwell a slight look, a warning to stand down. Sitwell closed his mouth. Fury stepped away from the wall and walked a little closer, but not into Coulson's space. He kept a comfortable distance, just inside the circle of light. You said Hulk has potential, Fury said. Higher than Abomination, possibly even pushing yours if he gets angry enough. That right? Yes, I said. You think he can be killed? Fury asked. Anything can be killed, I said, given enough force, enough time, and the right weakness. But if you try to kill him with the tools you have now, you will fail. You will only make him angrier, stronger. Fury absorbed that quietly. Coulson switched the tablet view, bringing up images from the battle. Grainy footage from rooftop cameras, distant shots from news choppers, SHIELD surveillance. All three of us, Hulk, Abomination, and I, trading blows, tearing through the street. He turned the screen slightly, so I could see. Do you see anything here we're missing? He asked. Patterns, openings, something we can use. I watched the flickering video. It was weaker than the reality. It captured shape and motion, but not weight, not impact, not the feel of each hit landing. Still, there were details. Hulk protects the woman, I said. I nodded slightly to one freeze frame where Hulk had placed himself between Betty and falling debris. He moves toward her when he can. If you want to calm him, you bring her. If you want to enrage him, you hurt her. But that would be stupid. You will not like the result. Coulson's face tightened. Noted, he said. Abomination attacks civilians to draw Hulk in, I continued. He will always exploit the weak to get what he wants. If you face him again, clear the area fast. He will use hostages. He has no restraint. Coulson typed again. What about you? He asked, looking up. I looked back at him. What about me? Same question, he said. How do we calm you down? How do we enrage you? Do we have to give you a name like Threat Level Omega and hope you stay bored most of the time? I do not rage without cause, I said. I do not lose control. There is nothing to calm. I am always like this. He thought about that for a moment. And to enrage you, he tried. If you deny me a fight with a worthy foe, I answered. If you interfere in a battle I care about, if you attack me with the intent to cage or humiliate me, then I will respond with everything I have. Fury's mouth quirked at one corner. So we don't chain you, he said. We don't get between you and another heavy hitter, and we don't waste your time. Yes, I said. If you hold to that, we have no conflict. Coulson closed the tablet and rested it on the folder. All right, he said. Last set of questions. He leaned forward slightly, elbows on his knees. On a simple scale, in your judgment, Hulk versus this planet. If he loses control completely, how bad is it? I pictured Hulk without restraint. No banner, no ties, no Betty, just pure rage with no limit. Your cities would fall, I said. He would turn them into rubble if left alone long enough. But I do not think he would wipe out your entire race. He is not a conqueror. He is a storm. Storms pass. Calson nodded slowly. An abomination. Less long-term damage, I said. More focused cruelty. He would kill many around him, enjoy it, then move on. Easier to stop eventually, but uglier along the way. And you? He asked, looking up. I met his eyes. If I chose to break this world, I said, I would start with its champions. I would seek out your strongest, your Hulk, your Thor, your machines and witches and monsters. I would defeat them first. When your symbols fell, your people would break. Your cities would follow. But I have no interest in that. It is tedious. I hunt fights, not planets. Calson held my gaze. There was no point where he looked away. He swallowed once, then nodded. That's good to know, he said quietly. Fury turned his head slightly toward him. Phil, he said, you getting what you need? For tonight, Calson answered. Yeah. Fury took a breath and looked back at me. Then here's where we stand, he said. You've been honest. That earns you something. He took a few steps closer, stopping at the very edge of the circle where Calson stood. You walk free, Fury said. No cell, no collar, no contract. You move as you wish. In exchange, SHIELD will continue to give you information when something big hits this planet. Strong enemies, serious threats. You take the ones you want, ignore the ones you don't. As long as you're not turning that power on civilians or my people, we don't have a problem. That is already our arrangement, I said. Now it's official, Fury replied, from the man in charge. I nodded once. Then I accept, I said, until you break it. He smiled faintly. I don't plan to, he said. Calson stood from the crate. We'll set you up with a perimeter space outside the main buildings, he said. No walls, just ground. Our people will stay back unless they have something important. You can come and go as you like. I will not stay long, I said. This place is quiet. It holds nothing for me. I know, Calson answered, but we need somewhere to start. People are still processing what they saw in New York tonight. Give us a little time to normalize this. He gestured up and down at me. I accepted that. Humans needed rituals, processes, comforts to steady their minds. I did not. Fury turned away and started up the stairs toward an observation level above the hangar, already speaking into a communicator about threat reports and damage assessments. Sitwell followed after him, glancing back at me once with a mix of unease and curiosity. Calson stayed. He tucked the folder under his arm and looked up at me one last time. His face was lined with fatigue, but his eyes remained focused. Thank you for answering, he said, even if you didn't do it for us. I did it for myself, I said. Knowing my opponents makes future fights better. That is all. He smiled slightly. I'll keep that in mind. He took a step back. If you need anything. I need nothing, I cut in. Only battle. Bring me word when you find the next strong foe. Until then, do not disturb me with trivial matters. He nodded. Understood, he said simply. He walked away, heading toward an office door at the far side of the hangar. I was left in the middle of the open space. The agents on the perimeter shifted slightly, unsure whether to stay or go. I sank down to sit cross-legged on the concrete, claws resting on my knees. My breathing was calm now. The aches in my body had faded to faint echoes. The energy from the Hulk and abomination still sat in my muscles, like a memory etched into bone. They had been good opponents. Not the last, Chapter 12, the man in the metal skin. The days after Harlem were quiet. SHIELD moved me to a remote facility in the desert, not the same base as before. This one was smaller, lower, buried more into the rock. Hangars cut into the ground, runways that vanished into the sand at the edges. They gave me space outside the main buildings, a flat stretch of ground bordered by concrete barriers and sensor towers. I stayed there when I was near them, sitting on a slab of rock that overlooked the facility. The agents learned quickly not to approach unless they had something real to say. Most of the time, I watched. Helicopters took off and landed. Trucks moved supplies. Agents trained in small groups, firing weapons at targets, running drills. It was all routine. It did not interest me. Then one night, something changed. I felt it before they reached me. A faint vibration in the air, not from the earth, but from something technological. A new kind of power spike, clean, controlled, with a steady pulse. Different from Asgardian energy, different from gamma. Arc reactor. I already knew this world's path. I knew what that signature meant. Tony Stark, Iron Man. His first open battle in his suit against the man who betrayed him. I sat up straighter on the rock. Engines grew louder behind me. Footsteps approached. I did not turn. I waited. Battle beast, Carlson's voice called from a few meters back. The wind carried the strain in his tone. He was moving fast. Speak, I said. He came into view at my side, suit jacket open, tie loose, tablet in hand. Sweat shone at his temple, but he wasn't running out of breath yet. He held up the tablet so I could see the screen. On it, a feed showed a nighttime city. The camera angle was from a helicopter, bouncing slightly. A tall Stark-branded building stood in the middle, lit by a bright blue ring halfway up its structure. Smoke poured from its top levels. A large armored shape moved along the roof. The Ironmonger suit, Obadiah Stane inside. A smaller red and gold figure flew up to meet it. Tony Stark, Iron Man in his first full armor. Lowe's Angels, Carlson said. Stark's main facility. We've been tracking him for a while now. Tonight he picked his moment. That big one is not his. It's a stolen copy. Bigger, cruder, ugly as hell. He tapped the screen, bringing up another view, closer. The larger suit grabbed a car and hurled it. The smaller one swooped to catch it, straining under the weight. Obadiah Stane, I said. The uncle, he is your big one. Carlson blinked, then nodded slowly. Yeah, he said. You've been paying attention. I know this path, I said. I know this fight. He accepted that without asking how. Then you know this is bad, he said. If that thing keeps walking, we're going to lose more than a few cars. Ross isn't here. This isn't his show. SHIELD is watching, but we are not in open control yet. On the screen, Iron Man fired repulsors into Ironmonger's chest. The blasts staggered him, but not much. The larger suit swung and hit Tony out of the air. Tony skidded along the roof, armor scraping against metal and concrete. You want me to go, I said. Carlson nodded. You told me to call when we find something strong, he said. That thing qualifies, so does Stark for that matter. You want a new challenge. There it is. I watched Ironmonger stomp toward the fallen Iron Man. He is not on the level of Hulk or Thor, I said, but he is stronger than your normal enemies. The suit gives him teeth he does not deserve. Is that a yes? Carlson asked. It is, I said. I stood in one smooth motion. I will face him. I will see what your Iron Man can do as well. Carlson pointed toward the airfield. Quinjet is ready, he said. We'll get you as close to the tower as we can. We moved. I walked, he jogged to keep pace. The wind picked up dust around our feet. The Quinjet waited with engines running. Ramp down, interior lit. SHIELD agents cleared the way when they saw me coming, weapons slung, eyes tracking my movement. Some swallowed hard. None ran. I stepped onto the ramp and into the cabin. It was larger than the truck, ceiling higher, space wider, built to carry people and cargo through the air. The metal inside smelled of fuel and ozone. The ramp closed behind me. The jet turned and began its roll forward. We lifted into the air with a steady, controlled surge. Carlson strapped into a seat near the side, buckling in. I remained standing, bracing one hand on a support bar. The vibrations meant nothing to me. He glanced at his tablet again and switched the feed to live. I watched. Iron Man and Ironmonger had moved off the main roof, and were now on the sloped surface near the large circular arc reactor chamber at the top of the building. The big ring pulsed with blue light, humming. Stain's suit lumbered after Stark, firing weapons from its arms. Rockets and gunfire lit the night. Stark dodged as best he could, but he was slower now, damaged. His suit wasn't at full power. His flying was unsteady. He landed hard on the roof and stumbled. Ironmonger landed across from him, heavy and solid. The fight was tilting. I felt my jaw tighten. It had been a while since I felt that small pull of urgency, not fear, just the sense that time mattered now. "How long?" I asked, eyes still on the screen. "Few minutes," Carlson said. "We're pushing the engines as hard as we can." "Faster," I said. My tone didn't rise, but the word was heavy. The pilot's voice came over the internal speaker. "This is Max, sir," he said. "We're already stretching the safety margins." "Keep it there," Carlson replied. We flew. The desert gave way to scattered lights, then clusters, then the full glow of the city. Lowe's Angels sprawled beneath us in tight blocks and winding roads. The Stark building rose from it with the bright arc ring halfway up, like a blue eye in the night. The Quinjet angled toward it. On the tablet, Ironmonger had Stark pinned near the top of the reactor housing. Stain fired a cannon point blank, blowing away part of the structure. Stark fell, caught himself on a ledge, pulled himself up again. I had seen enough. I stepped toward the side hatch. Carlson unbuckled, grabbing the rail to stand. "We're not over the roof yet," he said. "Pilot needs another pass." "Open it," I said. He hesitated for only a moment, then hit the control. The side hatch slid open. Wind rushed into the cabin, loud and strong. The city's lights spread out beneath us like a grid of glowing points. The Stark Tower was close now, slightly below our altitude, its top dotted with wreckage and fire. I moved to the open hatch. The pilot's voice spoke again. "We're as close as I can get without spooking Stark systems," he said. "You've got maybe 100 meters." That was enough. I stepped out. The air grabbed at my armor and fur as I dropped. The Quinjet sound faded above me. Wind roared past my ears. The tower rose up fast. On the roof, Ironmonger stood over Iron Man. Stark lay on his back, armor flickering weakly. He tried to move, but his limbs were sluggish. Stain raised his suit's massive foot, aiming to stomp him through the metal. I hit the roof between them. The impact cracked the plating and sent a shock through the structure. The arc reactor housing behind me hummed, the vibrations running through my legs. Ironmonger's raised foot stopped in midair. I straightened and looked up at him. The suit was ugly, bulky, thick armor plates, crude welding, exposed pistons, powerful but inelegant. The repulsors in its chest and hands glowed faintly blue. Heat radiated off it. Behind me, Stark groaned. "Okay," he muttered weakly inside his helmet. "That didn't come standard." Stain's amplified voice boomed from the suit's speakers. "And what the hell are you?" he shouted. I pointed one clawed hand at him. "You are in my way," I said, voice deep and calm. "You stand over a beaten man and call it victory. That is not a fight. That is garbage." Stark coughed a short, pained laugh. "Not disagreeing," he said. Stain snarled, metal fingers clenching. "You want a fight?" he growled. "Fine, I'll crush you both." He fired his chest repulsor at me. The beam hit my chest and pushed me back half a step. Heat bit into my armor, then faded. My muscles tightened under the impact, then relaxed. I looked down at the slight scorch mark on my chest plate. "Weak," I said. "You gotta be kidding me," Stark muttered. Stain's breathing came over the speakers, heavy and angry. "Let's see how weak this feels," he spat. He stepped forward, suit whirring, and swung one massive arm down in a heavy punch aimed at my head. I did not dodge. I raised my forearm and met the hit with a block. The force pushed my arm back and made my shoulder flex, but it did not move my feet. Metal groaned inside his arm. I stayed standing. I smiled. You build a giant shell, I said. You think that makes you strong. You do not understand strength. He struck again with his other arm, aiming for my torso. I turned slightly and caught that fist too, one hand on each massive metal knuckle, holding both arms away from my body. The suit pushed, servos whined, pistons strained. I felt the pressure. I pushed back. My claws dug into the metal, leaving dents. Inside the armor, Stain grunted. What are you? He growled. I am Battle Beast, I said. Remember that name as you fall. With a sharp twist, I yanked his arms outward and down, pulling his upper body forward. The heavy torso rocked awkwardly. His balance faltered for a moment. I drove my knee up into his chest. The impact dented the front plate hard. The suit rocked backward, nearly tipping. He caught himself with a stomp that shook the whole roof. Behind me, Stark pushed himself slowly to a seated position. Okay, he said hoarsely. That's new. Stain steadied the suit and roared in frustration. He swung wide with his right arm like an untrained brawler. I ducked under the swing and stepped forward into his reach. I hit his knee joint with a straight punch. Something cracked inside the metal. The leg buckled, the suit tilted. He tried to compensate with the other leg, but the weight was wrong. I grabbed the damaged leg and yanked, pulling him off balance. The giant machine crashed down to one knee. I did not let go. I hammered my fist into the side of the knee again. The armor plate buckled deep this time. Sparks flew. Hydraulic fluid sprayed out in a thin mist. Come on, Stain snarled. Move, damn it. The suit tried to rise. The leg failed. It stayed half-collapsed. He raised his right arm and fired a close-range missile. I pushed off and leapt back as the missile streaked past my chest. It exploded behind me, tearing a chunk from the reactor housing's outer shell. Heat washed over my back. I landed in a crouch and rolled my shoulders. Stark flinched at the blast. Hey, he snapped weakly from the ground. Watch the big power source. That thing's important. He tried to get to his feet, wobbled, and half fell again. Stain swung his other arm and fired the suit's machine gun. Bullets hammered into my torso and arms, shredding some of the outer armor, but they did not penetrate deeply. A few rounds pinged off my horn and shoulder guards. I walked through the stream. You shoot like the army, I said. It does nothing. I lunged. I reached his right arm and grabbed it just above the elbow joint. I braced my feet, twisted my whole body, and pulled. Metal screamed. The arm tore free in a spray of sparks and torn cables. I swung it once and let it go. It flew over the side of the building, spinning into the dark city below. Inside, Stain shouted in raw anger. The suit staggered, unbalanced. He swung the remaining arm at me in a heavy, desperate blow. I stepped inside the swing and drove an uppercut into his chest. The hit lifted the front of the heavy suit off the ground for a moment. It crashed back down, half twisting, almost rolling onto its side. Stain hammered at his controls, trying to stabilize. I did not give him time. I grabbed the front of the suit by the chest and head plate, claws biting into the metal seams, and dragged. My legs pushed against the roof, muscles coiled and bunched. The suit scraped along the plating, sparks trailing behind it. I pulled him to the very center of the top platform, above the glowing arc reactor. Stark watched, exhausted but alert. You're putting him right over it, he said, realization in his voice. Yes, I said, he belongs here. The ironmonger suit thrashed weakly in my grip, but the broken leg slowed it. It tried to fire another chest repulsor. I smashed my forehead into the front plate. The glow in the chest dimmed for a second. Stain's voice came over the speakers again, frantic now. You freak, get off. I slammed him flat on his back over the circular glass and metal structure that protected the arc reactor below. The glass cracked under the impact. He struggled, pushing with his remaining arm, trying to roll off. I planted one foot on his chest and pushed down, pinning him in place. "Stay," I said. "Your fight is over." He snarled, wordless now, suit straining under my weight. I looked back at Stark. He was on his feet now, barely. His armor flickered, power low. He limped toward us, one hand pressed to his side. "You can finish this," I said to him. "You know how." He met my eyes through his helmet's slitted visor. His breathing was rough, strained. "You know a lot, don't you?" he said hoarsely. "I know enough," I replied. "End him, or he will crawl back in another shell." Stark looked past me, down through the cracked glass at the reactor's glow. He swallowed once. "Pepper," he muttered to himself. "She's in the control room." He touched a hand to the side of his helmet, activating comms. "Pepper," he gasped. "You still there?" The wind on the roof carried only his side of the conversation to me, but I knew the rest. He would tell her to overload the reactor, to blow it, to burn out the power and take Stain with it. Under my foot, the ironmonger suit continued to strain. Pistons whined. Servos tried to lift his chest. He was strong, but not strong enough to lift me off him. I looked down at him. "You are not weak," I said, "but you are not a warrior. You hide in armor and think that is enough. It is not." He spat something inside the suit, but the speakers only carried a garbled roar. I did not move my foot. Stark took a few more limping steps, then stopped. His entire suit trembled from overexertion. Lights dimmed along his arms and chest. He was close enough now that I could see his eyes more clearly through the helmet slits. Exhausted, determined. I watched him. "Iron Man," I said. He stared back at me. "Yeah," he rasped. "You fought alone against him before I arrived," I said. "You did not run. You placed yourself between him and the weak. You are not strong enough yet, but you are on the path." He let out a rough breath that might have been a laugh. "Thanks," he said, "I think." He turned his head to look down at Stain's trapped suit, then back at the reactor housing. In the distance below us, alarms began to blare faintly. Somewhere inside the building, Pepper Potts moved through a control room, hands shaking as she followed Stark's instructions. Beneath our feet, the hum of the arc reactor grew louder. The light under the glass brightened. The fight was not finished yet. But Stain was no longer my concern. I kept my boot on his chest and watched Tony Stark, Chapter 13, Metal and Light. The hum under my feet grew louder. I kept my boot planted on the ironmonger's chest. His armor vibrated against the cracked glass of the arc reactor housing. The blue light beneath him brightened slowly at first, then steadily faster. Stain thrashed inside the suit. The metal frame jerked as pistons tried to lift, servos strained, and the remaining arm dug into the roof. He pushed against me with everything the machine had left. It did not move me. "Get off me!" His voice screamed through the suit's speakers, distorted by panic and feedback. I looked down at him calm. "No," I said. "You will stay here." He swore, yelled, and yanked uselessly at the controls. Behind me, Tony Stark stood near the edge of the reactor's main housing. His red and gold armor flickered in patches. Parts of it were scorched and scraped. He leaned forward slightly, exhaustion visible even through the suit. His breathing came harsh through the helmet speakers. "Pepper," he panted, "you there." I heard only his side of the comm, but I knew the rest. Pepper Potts in the lower levels, hands on control panels, voice shaking. "Push it," Tony said hoarsely. "Override the safety, hit the big button." He looked down through the cracked glass at the glowing arc core. The light was rising steadily, white-blue and sharp. The entire housing vibrated. "Now, Pepper," he shouted. There was a faint echo from deep inside the building as systems responded. Power rerouted. The hum turned into a loud, constant thrum that made the air itself feel tight. The light beneath my foot jumped in intensity. Stain's suit shook harder. Warning alarms squealed from his speakers, overlapping each other. Critical overload, core instability. A mechanical voice repeated in clipped bursts. "Pepper, what are you doing?" Stain barked. "Shut it down." Stark half turned toward him, then back toward the reactor. "Yeah," he muttered. "That's not happening." The glow under us grew so bright it was hard for human eyes to look at. My vision adjusted easily. The energy pressed upward, like pressure building under a lid. The glass beneath Ironmonger's back began to fracture further. Cracks extended outward in a branching pattern. Small shards fell into the chamber below. "Move," Stain shouted again. His voice cracked. I pressed my boot down harder on his chest plate. The metal whined. "You will die here," I said evenly. "Accept it." He screamed, a raw sound, and tried again to roll. The broken leg and missing arm made it impossible. The suit simply shuddered in place. Stark staggered backward, away from the center. His armor's power level was almost empty now. The glow of his chest arc was dimmer. He moved like every step hurt. "Get back," I told him without raising my voice. "You are not built for what is coming." He glanced at me for half a second. "Trust me," he said weakly. "I noticed." He turned and stumbled toward the edge of the structure, trying to put as much distance as he could between himself and the center of the reactor housing. His steps were slow. He nearly tripped once, caught himself, then kept moving. Under my foot, the light reached its peak. The hum became a long, piercing note. Then the arc reactor blew. The explosion erupted upward in a column of intense energy and debris. The force hit Ironmonger first. The suit buckled under my boot as the blast tore through the glass and metal. Heat washed over us, hotter than the destroyer's beam, sharper than any of the repulsor blasts. Fragments of reinforced glass, steel, and shattered machinery shot up around my legs. The air turned into a white-blue wall. I did not move. I bent my knees just enough to keep balance and kept my foot on Stain's chest as the core detonated beneath him. The Ironmonger suit did not withstand it. The armor split under the pressure. Plates ripped away from the frame. The chest collapsed inward as if punched from every direction at once. The helmet blew apart, exposing half of Stain's face for a brief instant. Eyes wide, teeth bared, skin lit by the core's glare. Then the blast took him fully. For a moment, there was nothing but light and noise. Inside that column, metal turned red, then white, then broke. Circuits burned. Cables vaporized. The main shaft of the reactor chamber tore itself open, sending a plume of material and energy into the night. I stayed planted. The heat touched my armor and skin, but did not penetrate deeply. My fur crisped at the edges of my legs for a moment, then the sensation passed. My muscles braced against the force. It was strong, but nowhere near what would be needed to move me. I felt the platform shudder under the assault. Portions of the roof around the blast point tore loose, flying outward in fragments. The railing along the edge twisted and broke. Pieces of metal, brick, and glass rained down on the lower levels. Then the blast collapsed inward, as quickly as it had expanded. The white-blue flash faded to a duller glow deep in the exposed shaft. Smoke and steam rose. The reactor housing's ring lights went dark in sections. Emergency backups flickered somewhere below. Wind took the excess heat and pushed it out into the night. The Ironmonger suit was gone. Where it had been, only torn wreckage remained. Twisted chunks of metal clung to bolts and embedded themselves in the fractured rim. The main body was broken into several pieces, some still stuck on bits of frame. The rest had been thrown aside or reduced to warped scrap. Beneath my boot, there was no more chest plate, only a large, jagged hole where the arc blast had hit hardest. Inside that hole, there was nothing left alive. I lifted my foot and stepped back off the ruined center. My armor showed no sign of damage. The heat had left a faint discoloration on the surface of one greave, But as I flexed my leg, even that seemed to fade as my body settled. I rolled my shoulders once. The fight was over. There was no satisfaction in the final moment. Stain had died by overload more than by my hand, but stripping him of his advantage and pinning him there had been enough. He had been a passable opponent. Not great, not poor, average for someone wrapped in stolen power. I turned and looked for Stark. He lay near the edge of the roof, half on his side, half on his back. The blast wave had thrown him there. His chest heaved in slow, rough breaths. His armor was almost entirely dark now, only a faint light still coming from the arc reactor in his chest. I walked toward him. As I approached, his helmet opened with a low hiss, the front faceplate folding up. His face was pale, streaked with soot and sweat. He stared up at the sky, eyes unfocused for a moment, then turned his head slightly as my shadow fell over him. He blinked and squinted. "You're still standing," he said, voice raw. "Yes," I answered. "No burns," he muttered. "No dents, no melting. That arc blast was a lot." "For you," I said, "not for me." He let out a short, breathless laugh that ended in a cough. "Okay," he said. That almost sounded like bragging. "It is a fact," I replied. He lay there for a few breaths, then tried to push himself up. His arms trembled. His muscles shook from exhaustion. He managed to lift his upper body slightly and then sank back down with a grimace. "Stay down," I said. "You have fought enough for tonight." He looked at me again, this time more focused. "You talk like we're in some kind of arena," he said. "Like this was a match." "All battles are matches," I said. "Some are worthy, some are not. This one was middling. Your opponent relied too much on steel and circuits. You rely on them too, but you moved with your own will. That matters." He stared at me for a few seconds, eyes searching my face. "You're not from around here," he said quietly. "That is true," I said. He exhaled slowly. His shoulders eased just a little, more from exhaustion than comfort. His gaze drifted toward the wreckage in the center of the roof. "So he's gone," Tony said. "Yes," I answered. "There is nothing left of him that can stand." "Good," he whispered. There was no triumph in his tone, only tired relief. I watched his chest rise and fall. He was alive but spent. His heart rate was slowing. The adrenaline was leaving him. Sirens wailed faintly from the city streets below. Car alarms joined them. Fire crackled somewhere down the tower's side. The smell of burnt circuitry and hot metal filled the air. A familiar engine sound reached my ears from higher up. I turned my head. The Quinjet I had jumped from was circling back, now at a safer distance. Its lights flashed in controlled patterns. On another approach path, a SHIELD chopper moved in, rotors chopping the air. Stark followed my gaze. He frowned slightly. "That one yours?" he asked. "They are not mine," I said. "No one commands me, but they are the ones who brought me here." "Government suits," he muttered. "Of course." He lay his head back against the roofing material and closed his eyes for a moment. His breathing stayed steady. I watched him. He had stood alone against a stronger armored foe. He had not run. He had taken the hits, tried to protect whoever was below in that building, and chosen to end it even at the cost of his own life if needed. That was closer to what I respected. He was not Hulk, not Thor, but he was something. A man building himself into a warrior using tools instead of blood. The chopper angled in and hovered near the tower. A rope team slid down from the Quinjet onto a lower balcony. SHIELD agents in dark tactical gear moved quickly, securing access points, setting up a perimeter. One of the chopper doors opened. Agent Carlson leaned out, holding onto a strap, coat flapping in the rotor wind. His eyes scanned the roof until they found me and Stark. The helicopter lowered slightly. Carlson shouted over the noise. "You two still alive?" His tone carried tired focus, not sarcasm this time. "Barely," Stark rasped. I answered simply, "Yes." The chopper settled closer to the roof edge. Two agents fast roped down near us, landing a short distance away with practiced precision. They approached slowly, hands visible, weapons holstered. One of them crouched beside Stark. "Mr. Stark," he said, "we're here to get you off the roof." Tony gave a small grunt. "Yeah," he said. "That sounds great. 5-star service." The other agent glanced at me, then decided not to comment. Their training was good enough to know when to keep their mouths shut. Carlson stepped off the rope last and walked toward us, ducking slightly under the spinning blades, even though he didn't need to. He looked at the wreckage in the middle of the roof, then at Stark, then at me. "Stain?" he asked. "Dead," I said. "Good," Carlson replied. His voice showed no surprise. He turned back to Stark. "You did well," he said. "But next time, you might want to call us before it gets to giant robot on the roof level." Tony cracked one eye open. "And missed the chance to be dramatic," he said weakly. "Not my style." "Your style almost got you killed," Carlson replied. Tony managed a slight smirk. "Almost." The agent beside him touched a hand to the side of Stark's helmet. "Sir, we're going to move you," he said. "Do not struggle." Tony snorted, not really in a struggling mood. They began fitting a harness around him, careful with the damaged parts of his armor. Carlson turned back to me. "You took that blast head on," he observed. "Yes," I said. "No burns," he noted. "No visible damage. You're just fine." "I told you what I am," I replied. "Now you have seen it again." He exhaled slowly. "I'm starting to believe there's nothing on this planet that can put you down for more than a second." "That may be true," I said, "for now." He did not like the sound of that, but chose not to argue. The agents lifted Stark with the harness. He winced once, then settled. The chopper's cable took his weight. They began to hoist him up. Tony looked down at me as he rose. His face was drawn, but his eyes stayed sharp. "Hey," he called, "Lion Guy." I looked up, meeting his gaze. "Battle Beast," I corrected. "Right," he said. "Battle Beast. That's very on brand." He paused, breathing, then said, "You helped. So, thanks. I guess I owe you one." I shook my head once. "You owe me nothing," I said. "I did not help you. I helped myself. I wanted this fight." He smirked faintly. "Still sounds like saving my ass from where I'm lying." "If you believe that," I said, "keep it. It does not change what I am." He thought about that for a moment, then nodded once. "Okay," he said. "Then next time, I'll try to pull my weight more." "Do that," I said. "Grow stronger. Then we will see if your armor can stand against me one day." Carlson gave him a quick, pointed look. "Let's file that under not recommended," he said. Tony just smiled weakly as the chopper pulled him higher. Once he was clear, Carlson signaled the remaining agents. "Secure the roof," he said. "Mark the wreckage for collection. No one touches the core fragments without full gear." The agents moved to follow orders. Carlson stepped closer to me, folding his arms. "You planning to stay up here?" he asked. "Or can we persuade you to ride with us this time?" "I will leave when I choose," I said, "but I do not need to be here anymore. The battle is finished." "Then come with us," he said. "Fury will want to hear your take on this, and Stark will eventually want to know what the hell you are." I grunted softly. "He knows enough," I said. "I am what he saw, a warrior stronger than his machines." Carlson half smiled. "You really don't do modesty, do you?" "I do not decorate truth," I said. He shook his head once, amused and tired. "All right," he said. "Let's go." I walked with him toward the rope line. The agents backed away to give me space. The chopper lowered its cable again. "I will jump," I said. Carlson sighed. "Of course you will." I bent my knees and leapt. I landed on the skid of the chopper with a heavy thud that made the frame shake. The pilot swore once over the internal channel, then corrected the balance. I grabbed a handhold and steadied myself. Carlson climbed the rope with smooth movements and pulled himself inside. The door shut. The chopper lifted, banking away from the damaged Stark Tower. Below us, the building